नन्दिनि नन्दितमेदिनि विश्वविनोदिनि नन्दिनुते गिरिवरविन्द्यशिरोदिनि वासिनि विष्णुविलासिनि जिष्णुनुते भगवति हेशिति कण्ठकुटुम्बिनि भूरि कुटुम्बिनि भूरि कृते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते सुरवरवर्षिणि दुर्धरदर्शिनि दुर्मुखमर्षिनि हर्षरते त्रिभुवनपोषिणि शङ्करतोषिणि किल्बिषमोषिनि घोषरते धनुजनि रोषिनि दितिसुतरोषिनि दुर्मथतोषिनि सिन्धुसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते जय जय हे महिषासुरमर्दिनि रम्यकपर्दिनि शैलसुते
Hi guys, thank you for joining the live stream. I hope the audio is coming fine. तो अभी RNC लाइव चल रहा है, रिपब्लिकन नेशनल कन्वेंशन. यहाँ पे अभी ट्रम्प कैंडिडेट है कि नहीं उसका फाइनल वोटिंग चल रहा है हर स्टेट से. और यहाँ पे अगर तो अभी तो ट्रम्प तो कैंडिडेट बनेगा एंड वहाँ पे आके वीपी अनाउंस करेगा शायद. तो मैं शायद के भरोसे से यहाँ बैठ गया हूँ. ठीक है, लास्ट में शायद या तो फॉक्स पूरा मेरा कॉपीराइट मार के उड़ा देगा, नहीं तो मैं खुद उड़ा दूंगा अगर वीपी विवेक नहीं वीपी बना तो शायद. तो देखते हैं. और वैसे पैरेलली लाइव विवेक एक जगह पे स्पीच दे रहा है तो वो भी देखूंगा थोड़ा. और अभी कुछ देर पहले विवेक ने एक ग्राउंड ब्रेकिंग हिस्टोरिक छोटा सा एक स्पीच दिया है. कुछ लोगों ने घेर रखा था वहीं पे एक ऐसे ही एक लॉबी में बैठ के ये आरएनसी के बाहर लॉबी में. ठीक है, क्या बढ़िया स्पीच है. तो देखते हैं क्या विवेक वाइस प्रेसिडेंट बनेगा. हर एक स्टेट एक एक करके अनाउंस कर रहा है. ठीक है, और मैं अभी भी तो डिसाइड किया, अभी थंबनेल बना के अभी लाइव आ गया. मैं अभी इंस्टाग्राम इत्यादि जगहों पे मैं खुद अपना प्रमोशन कर रहा हूँ कि मैं अभी लाइव हूँ. तो वो भी मुझे करने दो. जय श्री राम.
To cast all 58 votes for the greatest president of my lifetime and my friend Donald Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, Indiana, 58 votes, President Trump. Georgia, 59 delegates.
Madam Secretary, I'm Josh McCoon, Chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. Georgia, the Empire State of the South. Georgia, the #1 state to do business in the United States of America. On November 5th, the Peach State will send 16 electoral votes for the once and future President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. And today, we proudly cast all 59 votes for President Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation.
Aditya, absolutely not. Laude ka system hai. Nino Vivek is bad for India. In some ways, he's great for Hinduism and for creating a lot of sensible discourse inside India's Hindutvadi people. उस तरह से indirectly is great for India.
Madam Secretary.
Shaptarshi, I guess he means that he's going to make America a very strong place. Strong USA is not in India's best interest, obviously. अब क्या करें? उनका ऐसा चुतिया फॉरेन पॉलिसी चलते रहेगा तो हम क्या करें? I think even Trump is better. Yeah, in a way, because he's going to strengthen USA. Kristi Noam, কেউ বলছিল যে ক্রিস্টি নোয়ামকে তোলা হবে, বাট ফাইনাল হয়নি কিছুই.
Snow on earth. We know what heaven on earth looks like.
তো what we are going to do today is, even if he's not picked as VP, we are going to shift to Vivek's current live stream that's going on, and we'll check out the phenomenal little speech he gave. I'm not online for long today. Yeah, M. Shastri, I'll look into that.
Well done. I'm wearing my glasses. Is that okay? You think? Glasses. I need you to move over just a little bit.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and rules and procedures of this convention, Utah, 40 votes, President Trump. Maryland, 37 delegates.
Madam Secretary, my name is David Bossie. Maryland, the old line state, the seventh state to enter the Union, known for the amazing Chesapeake Bay and Blue Crab, and the United States Naval Academy, the home of Fort McHenry, the historic site that inspired the Star-Spangled Banner, and the home of the next United States Senator from Maryland, Larry Hogan. Maryland, proudly casts our 37 votes for my friend, the 45th and 47th President of the United States, Donald John Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation,
Yeah, JD Vance is the pick. That's what I'm hearing.
37
JD Vance is married to an Indian lady.
Texas.
Madam Secretary, I'm Abraham Joe, Chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. Not only Texas is the economic powerhouse of America.
I'm looking forward to Trump's speech as well.
Back our oil and gas workers and back our men and women in uniform. Not only Texas create more private jobs every month than Joe Biden could ever dream when he's sleeping at 8 o'clock. Not only we are a state where no Democrat has won a...
Abhinav, JD Vance is also from... See, whoever Trump picks is going to be from his faction of the Republican Party, all of whom are strong nationalists who love USA, who will protect USA. So none of them are in the end, therefore, that good for India. They are good in the sense that they are going to put up a strong fight against commies, which is a necessity at the moment. Vivek would be extra dangerous because he's extra brilliant. That's the thing.
God bless you and God bless Texas!
Right now, Saptarshi, she is just some official of the Republican Party who's handling the show, and she's asking একের পর এক সব কটা রাজ্যকে জিজ্ঞেস করছে, ঠিক আছে, যে তোমরা তাহলে কাকে সিলেক্ট করছো তোমাদের তরফ থেকে? সব পার্টির সব রাজ্যে রিপাবলিকান পার্টির ডিভিশনদেরকে ডাকা হয়েছে।
President Trump. Iowa, 79 delegates.
Madam Secretary Alex Triantafilou, Chairman of the Ohio Republican Party. I stand here today with my friend Bernie Moreno, who's going to retire forever, politician Sherrod Brown, and deliver a win to the United States Senate. We proudly cast our 79 votes for President Donald J. Trump
And JD Vance!
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, Iowa, 79 votes, President Trump.
I would be surprised if Vivek gets some positions, because Vivek was saying he doesn't want small positions. Now, him as press secretary or White House chief of staff, or let's say, what's their home ministry called? I forgot. So, those things, Vivek would be very effective, or maybe Department of Education, pura hi de usko. that would be very effective, but that wouldn't get him too much of a name. But maybe, let's see.
Proudly and with all our hearts, cast our vote in favor of our next president, Donald J. Trump. America Sama! Talumai! Talumai! Hey! Hey! Hey!
Pursuant to
No, Secretary of State is there, Foreign Ministry. Home Ministry, I forgot.
America Samoa, 9 votes. President Trump. Wisconsin, 41 delegates.
Madam Secretary, on behalf of the Wisconsin delegation, we welcome everyone here to this 23rd Psalm place we call home, where 170 years ago, this great party was founded down the road in Ripon, Wisconsin, in a little white schoolhouse. Madam Secretary, the great state of Wisconsin proudly casts all of its 41 votes for Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and rules and procedures of this convention, Wisconsin, 41 votes, President Trump.
If Biden was president for another 4 years, Narendra Modi could, if he wanted, become the president of USA.
President Donald J. Trump will always be a New Yorker, and New York will always love President Donald J. Trump.
FBI, DOD, entire bureaucracy, education department, no one likes Vivek, which is why Vivek, if at all he is made to be effective by Trump, he would have to be put in charge of those divisions, or someone who can fuck with those divisions or fuck those divisions.
It's my honor as representative for New York's 21st Congressional District, House Republican Conference Chair, on behalf of the 91 New York delegates to the Republican National Convention, we proudly cast all 91 votes for President Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, New York, 91 votes, President Trump.
Yeah, I am Shastri.
Florida.
So, Vivek is best suited for director of the Office of Management and Budget. ठीक है, that controls. ये तो हो गया, काम खत्म. विवेक जाएगा, सिर्फ चिल करेगा, सिगार एक लाइट करेगा और बोलेगा क्या बजट, कौन बजट, जा भाग बोसी के, कोई बजट नहीं है, सब बंद कर दिया तेरा डिवीजन, जा प्राइवेट सेक्टर में नौकरी ढूंढ.
Family.
देश का भी भला, विवेक का भी भला, दोनों चिल करो बैठ के.
In the unbelievable state of Florida, we hereby nominate every single one of them for the greatest president that's ever lived, and that's Donald J. Trump.
नहीं, ब्राह्मण वीपी तो इस बार शायद नहीं हो रहा है, जेडी वैंस को किया जा रहा है, as far as I'm hearing. तो 28 में देखते हैं. So Avinav is saying, how about defense department for Vivek? So that would be also same. He's mostly an isolationist. He would say, no, we are not taking part in any foreign wars. So yeah, light the cigar, chill. Oi, all soldiers, come back. चलो घर बैठो, बच्चों को जुजित्सु सिखाओ घर बैठ के.
President Trump.
Foremost plausible, most credible, most educated, most articulate voice against commies in the debate space in the world today is Vivek Ramaswamy. To some extent, and to date, Jordan Peterson. जैसा दीपक को तो इंडिया में पता है, लोगों को वहां पे कोई जानता नहीं है. तो डिफीटिंग कॉमी इज अ ग्रेट थिंग फॉर इंडिया एनीवे. तो और एक बेनिफिट है कि हिंदुइज्म का सर और भी ऊंचा होता है कि अच्छा हिंदुइज्म सिर्फ अजीब रिचुअल्स, मतलब खराब हैबिट्स एटसेट्रा, वो सब नहीं है. हिंदुइज्म है विवेक रामास्वामी. या बंगपुत्र इट्स लाइफ. अच्छा, ये गाना मेरा बहुत ही पसंदीदा गाना है, मगर मैं इसे चला नहीं पाऊंगा तो कॉपीराइट खाऊंगा. बॉर्न इन द यूएसए चला दिया क्या ब्रूस स्प्रिंगस्टीन का? माइक पेंस, अरे माइक पेंस वाज द गाय हु वाज पुट देयर टू कीप डोनाल्ड ट्रम्प इन चेक. माइक पेंस was the establishment guy. The only advantage Vivek will give India is that it will get rid of Soros, Ford, Amidar, or maybe he will kick them out of USA and they'll find even a better home in India. Guys, don't forget that Narendra Modi is basically best friends with World Economic Forum, BlackRock, everyone. BlackRock is working with Geo. There's no end to our troubles at the moment. Love from Kerala, Roshan Ramesh. Thank you for the donation. Who's JD Vance? A great staunch nationalist guy, an NRI wife. Not just that, Vivek is also a no-nonsense Hindu. Whenever you think it's for India, always first. Yeah, and importantly, Vivek doesn't shy away from it. Even he was speaking to who's that famous comedian whose partner is that Akash Singh guy. उसके पॉडकास्ट में गया था विवेक, वहां पे तो धर्मा समझाने लग गया था. वो उच्चारण ठीक से नहीं कर पाता obviously. When they were discussing India, Indian culture, Hinduism, etc., he said, our dharm teaches us to do this and that. उतना तक चला गया. Bhupendra, thanks for the memberships.
Brothers and sisters of Florida, Texas, California, New York, and all the state, proudly cast all of our 23 votes for our next president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Yes, Andrew Schulz, flagrant podcast. What a brilliant comedian. JD Vance is actually positive for India. He met Ram Madhav and Swapal. I see.
Puerto Rico, 23 votes, Donald Trump, President Trump.
No, Andrew Schulz is brilliant. One of my favorite comedians at the moment.
Madam Chairman, the Commonwealth of Kentucky proudly cast 46 votes for the next president, Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, Kentucky.
Yeah, so Bongoputra is saying, how is he attending RNC after getting shot? Surely he's in rest. No, after the announcements, I think he will come to give a speech. BlackRock working with Geo, wokeness to flood India, yes. There was another comment. Yeah. So, finishing a Ram Madhav ta, okay. Yeah, he's from the previous generation, and his debate with who's that Al Jazeera guy who tried to fuck with Vivek and got screwed. So that's why I have a low opinion. I mean, I'm underestimating people like these taking the conversation forward in the world conservatism space. तो राम माधव से कितना हो पाएगा पता नहीं.
Pursuant to the
I watched Ram Madhav's lecture. I did not watch Sapan Das Gupta's lecture. First of all, it's very annoying that I have to listen to those speeches at 1.75x. So that's going to bore anyone. No one other than Indians listen to that speech, okay? जो मतलब ऑडियंस में बैठ गया था उसको सुनना ही पड़ा, क्या करे, वैसा स्पीच है. And फिर it's very, it was not a strong, powerful speech that will make you stand up and give a round of applause and stuff. Vivek would have made Hindu political mainstream. Does Vance have any positive links with India? अरे उसका बीवी तो NRI हिंदू है. Mehdi Hasan, yes. The way Vivek fucked Mehdi Hasan, Ram Madhav could not fuck Mehdi Hasan, right? What? For what reason? Vivek is basically a fucking nobody, a billionaire who writes some books. With that stature, he fucked Mehdi Hasan. He handed his balls to him. Okay, ye lo bhai testicles, ab ghar jao. Ram Madhav had a cool, calm conversation. And Ram Madhav was already a significant name in the most populated democratic country in the world. That's why I have no hope from people like him or his generation even. Vivek Ramaswamy has the ability to argue being a Hindu is having the most Christian values than a Christian. Yes. BlackRock is woke because of stupid ESG stuff that forces DI on other nonsense. Yes. There's no world conservatism. It's la la land idealism. No, absolutely not. There's a global fight back going on against communism and leftist politics and wokeism. Every country that has some semblance of civilization is uniting. BlackRock can be fixed. They're not. No, absolutely, BlackRock can't be fixed anytime soon. अमन इनवाइटिंग इंडिया अलायंस जेएसडी होता तो मजा. हाँ, जेएसडी तो मेहदी हसन को लंगा करके बाहर निकलता ऑफिस से. उसके अगले दिन अल जजीरा खुद निकाल देता मेहदी हसन को.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, Louisiana, 47.
No, I don't think Jaishankar said this, but people were making the meme because USA keeps saying it. I don't think Jaishankar ended up saying it. If Trump comes, India will become vassal state of America. देखते हैं. तो सीट काउंट भी कम है. सीट काउंट ज्यादा था तब भी ज्यादा दम नहीं दिखा रहा था. अब सीट काउंट कम है. राज्यसभा में भी माइनॉरिटी हो गया है. अब तो अब क्या ही करे. राम माधव इज टू insignificant and inconsequential speaker. या अब उसको बुलाया है तो क्योंकि उसका जो पद मर्यादा है उसको देखकर उसको बुलाया. अब उनको क्या पता कि ये कितने सॉफ्ट स्पोकन भाई साहब है. JSD in the JSD in the conservative convention would have been fine. Yeah, I agree. JSD को बाहर थोड़ा प्रोजेक्ट करना पड़ेगा. Dude, if Vivek becomes president, he's going to be Kennedy. He is Kennedy on steroids. Check on Millet's post on Trump. Yeah, he's not in Al Jazeera anymore. Yeah, when Ram Madhav talked to him, that time he was in Al Jazeera. BJP, Hindutva have a huge communication problem. Them, yes. Bokajoda theory that India will never become vassal of America. People said the same fucking thing when China opened up to USA, and soon China make USA its bitch. Bangaputro, that the China was able to do because of its strong intentions and dictatorship. भाई वो हमारा नहीं है. हमारा democratically strong position है तब भी नहीं हो रहा है. Okay, why aren't people getting it? India Alliance is not Kal Purusha himself. They are just another political bloc. If INC comes to power, Ambanis will fund them also. Yeah, that they will. BJP is becoming Congress. Huh? Yes. Wokeness has the ability to creep into young minds. Yes. Therefore, we have to make Hinduism cool again. Ram Madhav is good for a certain crowd. JSD is appropriate for a certain crowd. You can't mix the two. JSD at National Convention would sound similar to Madhav. No, absolutely not. Because M. Shastri, tone, articulation, talking speed, pronunciation, all these unfortunate ornamentations on a speech matters. Ram Madhav has none of these four things. Ram Madhav is good only and only for the boomer NRI crowd. No one else.
Time NCAA men's basketball champion UConn Huskies proudly cast 28 votes for the 45th president and soon to be 47th president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, Connecticut, 28.
बंगपुत्रो, जापान का ना दो एडवांटेज है जो इंडिया का नहीं है. एक है बहुत कल्चरल होमोजेनिटी और दूसरा है छोटा देश है. छोटा देश आफ्टर ऑल इज वेरी इजी टू, आई मीन इट्स इजियर टू हैंडल देन अ बिग कंट्री जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ द डिस्टेंस बिटवीन द नेशन हेड वर्सेस द एंटायर पेरिफेरल्स ऑफ द कंट्री. जितना पेरिफेरल्स दूर है हेड ऑफ स्टेट से उतना उसका फेडरलिज्म ज्यादा रखना पड़ता है. तो हमारा तो फेडरलिज्म है कि नहीं यही हम फिगर आउट नहीं कर पाए आज तक. हमारा तो हिस्ट्री ऑन सिविक्स बुक्स में आईएससी बोर्ड में पढ़ा था क्वाज़ी फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर. तो क्वाज़ी फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर में चूतिया ना सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ठीक से अपना काम कर पा रहा है और यहाँ पे फेडरलिज्म के नाम पे कुछ स्टेट ऐसे हैं जहां पे शरिया चल रहा है. तो कैसा जापान होगा हमारा.
Of the United States of America.
I think this will be BJP's last term as well, because their hands are tied now. And remember, conservatives came to power in England for 15 years, didn't do anything. They thought we'll have another term to fix this. Labour is back now. इतना आसान नहीं है.
Secretary, I'm Tracy Hunnell, National Committee Woman for Oregon, home of Congresswoman Lori Chavez DeRemer and Congressman Cliff Benz, home of the Beavers. Oregon is also home of the deepest lake in the country and the deepest canyon in the country. We have the third most climbed mountain in the world, and we're the wind sailing capital of the world. Oregon is an
Yes, and on none of these topics, Ram Madhav is an ideal speaker, and J. Sai Deepak would be almost ideal for everything. BJP last term, Rahul Gandhi ruled from 29 to 49, and 26 में अभिषेक भी यहाँ आ जाएगा, या फिर 2031 में. In 2024, Tamil hardly speak Hindi without a main language. How can you ever think democracy in proper way?
31 votes, President Trump.
I love it.
Mississippi, 40 delegates.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Governor Tate Reeves, on behalf of the great state of Mississippi.
Aditya Chakraborty is asking, thank you for the donation, Aditya. Will Trump and Christian Republican abandon cultist Vivek if he goes to make hard reform on defense, edu, FBI, global lefty media? Why would they? Christian Republicans and Trump want these things to happen. Why would they oppose Vivek for doing this?
As common as college baseball national championship teams. A Republican stronghold and a key piece of the red.
M. Shastri, I'll tell you why I'm skeptic on this idea, why I'm underestimating BJP. I think I'm legitimately underestimating BJP, is because I've begun to realize, and I'm noticing this everywhere, that once an organization or institution is made for a particular thing, it does, as we have discussed in our live streams many times, that it does not, no matter how much it wants, no matter how much it tries to rebrand itself, constitutionally, structurally, it is never able to move away from the thing it had started out to do. Whether it's a country or a political party or a company or an organization or a law or an institution, nothing. It never happens. So BJP, I think, is fundamentally incapable of fighting this fight. Therefore, I don't think, I mean, if you completely hijack BJP, उसके लिए वो हाईजैकिंग, इंटरनल आइडियोलॉजिकल हाईजैकिंग के लिए तो ग्राउंड लेवल में, मतलब हर घर में विवेक रामास्वामी, जय साई दीपक चाहिए. वो कैसे होगा पता नहीं. और फिर संभव है, जैसे कि डेमोक्रेटिक पार्टी में आज थोड़ा बहुत हाईजैक हुआ है सोशल जस्टिस वॉरियर का, मगर ज्यादा नहीं हुआ है. बाइडेन ने ये बर्नी विंग, अलेक्जेंडर ओकेसियो, एओसी विंग को भी काफी चुतिया बनाया है ना. उन लोगों को लगा था बहुत सी कि हमने तो ऑक्यूपाई डेमोक्रेट्स कर लिया है, हुआ कहां. तो मुझे नहीं लगता है बीजेपी से होगा ये.
Mariana Islands, 9 votes. President Trump. Wyoming.
और एम शास्त्री, ये मत भूलो कि बीजेपी इज ऑलरेडी हॉस्टाइल टू पीपल लाइक भाव तोरसेकर. तो इफ देयर आर एक्चुअल राइट विंगर्स हु वांट टू टेक ओवर देयर पार्टी, वो ये पोटेंशियल बच्चे बेबी विवेक, बेबी जय साई दीपक को भी नहीं छोड़ेंगे, उनको भी डालेंगे जेल में.
Country. We supply coal, oil and gas, soda ash, ag products for the entire world. And Wyoming, the cowboy state, is Trump country. We've supplied the highest margin of victory for President Trump in both 2016 and
M. Shastri, I don't think they're complacent. I think this is it. It is what it is. This is BJP. तो M. Shastri saying, but then again we'll keep blackpilling. Yeah, effort तो चलता रहेगा, देखते हैं. जैसे कि आज रिपब्लिकन पार्टी में थोड़ा बहुत टेक ओवर पॉसिबल हुआ है, मगर वो तो एक ट्रम्प आके, मतलब एक ट्रक घुसा दिया उसके आइडियोलॉजी में, इसलिए हुआ. नहीं तो अकेले अगर ये ग्राउंड अप करना पड़ता, हर घर में एक विवेक एक ट्रम्प, एक विवेक एक ट्रम्प, ऐसे तो नहीं होता. अचानक एक दिन ट्रम्प आ गया, सबका दिमाग हिल गया, खिसक गया. इसलिए तो अभी भी रिपब्लिकन पार्टी के अंदर कितना अपोजिशन था कुछ दिन पहले तक, अब तो हाथ जोड़ रहे हैं ट्रम्प के पास सब जाके, इसलिए पॉसिबल है. नहीं तो रिपब्लिकन पार्टी कुछ दिन पहले तक का वो चुतिया न्योकॉन ही रह जाता.
Mother and grandmother, and will be the next U.S. Senator from the great state of Maine. But today, as chair of the Maine...
I don't know about this one particularly, but read Jefferson's Bible. Jefferson's Bible is such a beautiful work. He brings out just the philosophy aspects of Bible, the good words, good values and stuff, moves away all the superstition, divinity stuff. He made his own Bible. And that's what kind of USA, most people in USA ended up following.
United States, Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures of this convention, Maine, 20 votes.
ये माइक पे यॉन कौन कर रहा है? करके एक यॉन किया किसी ने.
54 delegates.
हाँ रोहित, ये भी है. रोहित इज सेइंग इट्स नॉट अ बीजेपी प्रॉब्लम, इट्स अ हिंदू प्रॉब्लम. या अकेले अकेले बीजेपी को दोष दे के क्या फायदा? पूरा हिंदू सोसाइटी भी तो वैसा ही है. ठीक ही है.
Of the best United States senators, Josh Hawley and Eric Schmidt. From the great Northwest of the Pony Express to the Lake of the Ozarks, Bass Pro Shop, and St. Louis Arch, the mighty Missouri is casting 54 delegates for our favorite president.
या एग्जैक्टली, राजा राममोहन रॉय डिड दैट, बट हमारा तो जरूरत नहीं था, और हमारा तो कॉन्सेप्चुअलाइजेशन भी थोड़ा अलग है. उसने फालतू ऐसे ही फ्रेंडशिप का हाथ बढ़ाने के लिए किया. चलो ठीक है, उस समय तो किसी को पता नहीं था. उस समय उनको लगा होगा कि अच्छा इनके साथ कोलैबोरेट थोड़ा बहुत करना जरूरी है, बट इट वाज नॉट बेस्ड ऑन फैक्ट्स एनीवे.
Votes, President Trump. Idaho, 32 delegates.
I'm Dorothy Moon, chairwoman of the Idaho Republican Party, and also the delegate sponsor. I'm excited to have all of the delegates behind us, all 32 votes, to go toward Donald J. Trump. We are the gem state. We are very rural. We have a lot of mountains and rivers, and we also love freedom and liberty. And we love a...
अब इट्स नो आइडिया. 50 स्टेट तो है, कितना बहुत सारे स्टेट तो हो गया अनाउंसमेंट के. एक मिनट रुको, नंबर तो नहीं बोल रहा है. बहुत सारे स्टेट तो हो गए हैं, और कुछ देर ही बाकी होगा. उसके बाद ट्रम्प आएगा शायद स्पीच देने. व्हेन मोनू माने सर, या ये बंगपुत्रो, this is a formality voting that yes we do consent that the Republican Party's branches from all states, yes we confirm that we want Donald Trump to be our candidate. उनका कैंडिडेट ऐसे सामने होता है, घर बैठ के दरवाजा बंद करके नहीं होता है. उसमें शिनानिगंस होता है. एक पार्टी का, अपने पार्टी का ही मेंबर अपने पार्टी को हराने का कोशिश करता है, डिबेट करता है, डिबेट में दोनों एक दूसरे को नंगे करते हैं, वो भी चलता है. तो बट ओवरऑल रिपब्लिकन पार्टी के सपोर्टर्स के बेस से ही वोट आके कैंडिडेट सिलेक्ट होता है, और उसके बाद ये डेलीगेट्स को भी कंसेंट देना पड़ता है कि हाँ हाँ ठीक है, तो ट्रम्प को ही मान लेते हैं. We have multiple problem and BJP's complaints is Hindu laziness, resistance to work, sake of larger community. Is this a second primary? Not primary. This is a formality. Colby Covington for president. If in, let me do what I think is best. We have multiple problems. Didi, if BJP Modi tried to be more hardline, follow Hindus will have thrown him in 2019, save the constitution. But 19 to 2024 is the time he should have done. First term तो ठीक है. First term is understandable. He got backlash, wrote 3 more works refuting Christianity, appeal to Christian public, 1, 2, 3. You mean Raja Rammohn Roy? I mean, I don't like armchairism. That is why I work for ISKCON like organization on my free time, get some work done. Anandranga sir को याद करो एक दिन ये पूरा. What? Okay. The key was academia change. Yes. Academia के अलावा बाकी सब जगह पे ठीक ठाक ही काम हो रहा है. तो सिर्फ academia में ही क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, ये थोड़ा क्रिटिकल और क्यूरियस क्वेश्चन भी है. बाकी सब जगह में देखो काम अल्टीमेटली मतलब जितना होना चाहिए था उतना नहीं हुआ है, वो अलग प्रश्न है. मगर एटलीस्ट मिनिस्ट्री में ठीक ठाक लोगों को बिठाया गया था. एस जयशंकर है, संजीव सन्याल है, निर्मला सीतारमण एटलीस्ट जेएनयू की पीएचडी है. रेलवे मिनिस्टर तो भाई वॉर्टन का एमबीए है, और फिर आईआईएम आईआईटी सब कुछ घूम आया है. ये एजुकेशन मिनिस्ट्री में ये क्या एक के बाद एक अजीब और गरीब लोग आ रहे हैं. कौन है ये लोग, क्यों है, कहां से आते हैं, किसके रिकमेंडेशन पे आए हैं, क्या गोल्स लेके आए हैं. डीयू में लॉ में मनुस्मृति घुसा दिया, 2 दिन बाद वापस भी ले लिया. ये क्या डायरेक्शन लेस ये प्रोसेस है. Seems the host is too in Batman mode, so am I. Night is the bro. Did you hear about Shankaracharya episode and him siding with? Yeah, what's new in this? I don't think. So you see, this is funny because this is the exact same thing that Jews face, that the Orthodox Jews say that Israel state has no right to exist, because if God wanted it to have existed, it would exist. Israel did not exist, so God did not want it. So you're basically going against God. तो हमारा भी वैसा ही है. ये अल्ट्रा ऑर्थोडॉक्स को लेके कुछ काम नहीं होगा. Therefore, Hindutva is just a socio-political organization which has nothing to do with religiosity or Indian history, Hinduism history, or Hinduism being good or bad. हम है अभी, हम एज हिंदूज किसी का कुछ नहीं बिगाड़ रहे हैं. हमको हमारे साथ छेड़छाड़ नहीं चलेगा. हमसे चुतियापा करना बंद करना पड़ेगा. ये उल्टा सीधा नियम, वक्फ वगैरह ये सब बंद करना होगा. यही है हिंदुत्व.
Can win New Jersey this year. Madam Secretary, we should all be thankful right now that we.
ये बीजेपी ना हमेशा इतना स्टॉन्चली एंटी इंटेलेक्चुअल भी नहीं था. देखो अंकित, हाउ आई बिकेम अ हिंदू में सीताराम गोयल बोल रहे हैं कि वो तो खुद ऑर्गेनाइजर में कॉलम लिख रहे थे. अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी ने जाके अलेजेडली उनको बंद करवा दिया. तो अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी का कंसर्न क्या हो सकता था, वो भी सीताराम गोयल ने ही समझा दिया कि क्योंकि ही वाज as fair as a scholar or as an honest academic can be. He said that maybe Atal Bihari Vajpayee was afraid that again it will get banned, RSS will get banned. So he was probably a fan of socialism as well, Gandhian socialism, Gandhism, और मतलब नेहरू का भी फैन था शायद, इसलिए शायद मुझको निकाल दिया. But he did screw me. But my point is, RSS does not have, BJP does not have any of its own intellectuals. They could not produce, nurture, give birth to any of its own intellectuals, an intellectual that will align with their views. And that is unforgivable because they had Sitaram Goel. And not just Sitaram Goel. Sitaram Goel तो ठीक है, 2003 में मर गए, 84 years के उम्र में. सीताराम गोयल ने खुद ने अपने बुक में पूरा लिस्ट दे दिया है कि देखो अगले जनरेशन में भी कितने बढ़िया बच्चे आ रहे हैं. उन बच्चों का नाम क्या है? अरुण शोरी, डॉक्टर कोनराड एल्स्ट. कोनराड एल्स्ट बैठा है ट्विटर पे, सारा दिन बवाल कर रहा है गांडू हिंदुओं के साथ. सीताराम गोयल मर गए, इनको इंटेलेक्चुअल मिला नहीं. इंटेलेक्चुअल बैठा है, मिस्ट्रियस सोशोलॉजिस्ट आज बैठा है. कौन काम, मतलब हाउ आर दे यूजिंग दीज पीपल?
Is the Tar Heel state. North Carolina is the home of the longleaf pine, and North Carolina is indeed, woo, the state that is and always will be first in flight. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the state of North Carolina, I am directed that the state to cast 62 votes for.
Saptarshi, Srikant Talagiri would still be rejected by the academia because he has absolutely no credentials. सीताराम गोयल का तो क्रेडेंशियल का भी इशू नहीं है, कोनराड एल्स्ट का तो क्रेडेंशियल का भी इशू नहीं है. और मैं इसमें मिस्ट्रियस सोशलिस्ट को घुसाऊंगा तो कुछ लोगों को लग सकता है क्या मैं सीताराम गोयल के साथ कंपेयर करूं, बट द जॉनरा ऑफ द टॉपिक इज सेम. नो, दैट a credentialed great academic with fresh new ideas aligns with the ideology, not getting recognition. तो फंडा सेम ही है. तो श्रीकांत तलागिरी का प्रॉब्लम होता.
Madam Secretary, Chairman Wadley, I am Joseph Wood.
और कोनराड एल्स्ट के साथ आर्ग्यूमेंट मुझे देख के मतलब गुस्सा है, मैं रोऊं या हंसूं समझ में नहीं आता है. इन लोगों को पता ही नहीं है कि कोनराड एल्स्ट कौन है, कितना पढ़ा है उनका, और ये what's the background he is coming from, where is he coming from, what's his reading, कुछ पता ही नहीं है. कोनराड एल्स्ट के साथ 2 दिन का मतलब यहाँ वहां से अजीबोगरीब हिंदुत्व टॉकिंग पॉइंट सीख के कोनराड एल्स्ट के साथ डिबेट करने जा रहे हैं.
With Donald J. Trump.
कोनराड एल्स्ट को कुछ दिन से लोग बोल भी रहे हैं कि अच्छा तो आफ्टर ऑल तुम तो व्हाइट सुप्रीमेसिस्ट आर्ग्यूमेंट लेके आ गए, अच्छा आफ्टर ऑल तो तुम वो क्रिश्चियन माइंडसेट ला रहे हो. अच्छा कोनराड एल्स्ट को बोल रहा है
40 votes, President Trump. Virginia, 48 delegates.
FN is saying a large part of the issue is the foundation of the Ambedkarite nation state, which is hostile to the Hindu. How is it an Ambedkarite nation state? It's a British nation state whose constitution Ambedkar didn't agree with. Ambedkar said don't put socialism in the constitution. Let the future generations decide. He wrote the book Pakistan or Partition of India, which people forgot, which commies obviously deliberately forgot. BJP did not promote it. Like I was saying in today's previous live stream, that I come from a commie family, and it's absolutely insanely surprising to me that mysterious sociologist staying in the Sanghi ecosystem for 20 years found out about that book 5-6 years back. If it was CPIM in the same position, let's say a Hindutwadi CPIM, and there's a book by Ambedkar called Pakistan or Partition of India, उसका हर कोट लेके करोड़ों पैम्फलेट हर कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी का सपोर्टर, पार्टी वर्कर, बेटी बहन उसके घर में काम करने वाले के हर के घर में पोस्टर, सब जगह वो बुक्स के कोट्स होते. कुछ पता ही नहीं है कैसे ये काम होता है. सिर्फ ग्राउंड लेवल कनेक्शन के नाम पे ये नहीं चलता है. और ये तो गया एक बुक. कोनराडल से सीताराम गोयल है. मैं तो अंबेडकर को यूज कर रहा हूं क्योंकि उसने सबसे स्ट्रॉन्ग क्रिटिसिज्म दिया है इस्लाम के अगेंस्ट में. इस्लाम के अगेंस्ट क्रिटिसिज्म में आज तक किसी एकेडमिक ने उतना स्ट्रांगली नहीं दिया है, especially with credentialed, with proper methodological, sociological backing. वो यूज नहीं कर रहा है कोई.
2 votes, President Trump. 6 votes to be cast pursuant to the rules and procedures of the convention. Michigan, 55 delegates.
Madam Chairwoman, I rise from the great state of Michigan, where the Republican Party was founded under the Oaks on July 6, 1854, home of the gas-powered automobile, Flint Vehicle City, Motown, Michigan State University Spartans, the 2023 football national champions, Michigan Wolverines, Cereal City, USA, the Great Lakes State, and sadly, the worst governor in America. We welcome you to the Midwest. The liberal elite call us flyover country. We're proud to be part of the so-called blue wall, and we're going to tear down.
No, they have to be blamed. तो if they say that देखो पावर में रहने के लिए तो इतना करना ही पड़ता है, तो वो करने के लिए तो पावर में नहीं है, तो फिर why not कांग्रेस? अरे Modi prime minister at the cost of anything, BJP in power at the cost of anything, for 5-10% difference.
Pursuant to the rules and procedures of the convention. Minnesota, 39 delegates.
While Trump is officially already chosen, this is a formality going on. I mean, if are you saying has Trump chosen Vivek or not? वो तो I heard he has chosen JD Vance. Let's see what he announces officially.
The first state to fight to preserve our nation in 1861. Today, to preserve our nation again, we Minnesotans proudly pledge all 39 of our.
हाँ, इसीलिए तो मीनाक्षी जैन को तो उनको यूज करना चाहिए था जब before Meenakshi Jain got tainted to be a Sanghi who goes on right-wing podcast, who will now not be taken seriously inside academia. वो ये सब हो जाने के बाद Meenakshi Jain is getting the voice, or maybe she's now finally coming out and taking these spaces because she is also fed up that she is not going to be given any significant powers to do any significant changes inside academia. Maybe Meenakshi Jain को ही बिठा देते कुछ बढ़िया जगह पे. Trump won the election. Yeah. BJP and Sangh wants us to work for them. That's nonsense. They need to work for us. Ram Janmabhoomi was not a Sangh movement. The Sangh joined the Hindu cause. Yes. How do we keep Hindu society surviving considering government is not going to help? Muslims don't lose their culture even if the society around them is woke. Because they have government incentives too. देखो, उनको टैक्स नहीं किया जाता है, पैसा दिया जाता है. हमको टैक्स किया जाता है, पैसा नहीं दिया जाता है. ट्रम्प नहीं चूज करेगा विवेक को भाई. Yeah, he has picked JD Vance, I think. Okay.
37 votes. President Trump. Rhode Island.
Yes. She changed the syllabus. Immediately Congress came and changed back the syllabus. And fundamental education department का shift करना था मीनाक्षी जैन के साथ. वो भी तो नहीं हुआ. मतलब बीजेपी आके मीनाक्षी जैन को ही बिठा देते कहीं पे सिग्निफिकेंट जगह पे. डू यू थिंक बाइडेन विल बी रिमूव्ड एज डेमोक्रेट नॉमिनी? पॉसिबली, देखते हैं. शायद मिशेल को बिठा देंगे.
Britain and the last state to ratify the Constitution because we believe in states' rights. We are home to the independent man who wonders what happened to that independent freedom of religion, spirit that Roger Williams brought into
हाँ तो अज्जू who is shouting VP 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 when Vivek and Trump is standing on stages everywhere?
power. Madam Secretary, the great state of Rhode Island proudly cast all 19 votes for Donald J. Trump.
अरे बीजेपी को ना पता नहीं है कि ये 2014 में पावर में किस लिए आए थे, उसमें एक बहुत बड़ी गलत फैमिली है। तो सीए अगर इस बार इस इलेक्शन के 3 महीने पहले ला देते तब भी इनको और भी ज्यादा मेजोरिटी मिल जाता, क्योंकि हमारे भाई लोग सब कुछ जलाने लग जाते, सबको और भी दिख जाता कि व्हाट्स द ट्रूथ, कितना मतलब शांति है चारों ओर, वो देख के ही आधे लोग ज्यादा वोट दे देते और 400 पहुंच जाते सच में।
Birthplace of our nation and Constitution at Independence Hall proudly cast all of its 67 votes for the bravest man in America, Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and and rules and procedures of this convention, Pennsylvania, 67 votes, President Trump.
अरे ये 50 स्टेट कब खत्म होगा?
29 delegates.
Madam Secretary, I'm Larry Roden, Lieutenant Governor of the great state of South Dakota. I'm proud to speak on behalf of myself and Governor Noem and our delegation. We represent.
हाँ तो वो शांति ही और थोड़ा बढ़ जाता यूसीसी के वजह से, और फिर लोग देखते और सामने से, क्योंकि ज्यादातर जो शांति में जो काम हम देखते हैं वो तो हम इंस्टाग्राम पे के राइट विंग ट्विटर हैंडल्स पे देखते हैं, जो कि हमारा एल्गोरिदम है। इन लोगों का एल्गोरिदम पूरा अलग दुनिया में है, उन लोगों को ये दिखता ही नहीं है, और दिखता भी है तो वो हाईली डिस्टॉर्टेड हेडलाइंस एंड स्टफ। आधा चीज तो उन लोगों को पता ही नहीं है, और आधे से ज्यादा लोग मतलब हमसे जो थोड़ा उम्र में बड़े हैं वो लोग सिर्फ मेन स्ट्रीम न्यूज देखते हैं। मेन स्ट्रीम न्यूज में वर्नाक्यूलर लैंग्वेजेस में सिर्फ और सिर्फ स्टेट का न्यूज दिखाया जाता है, नेशनल का कुछ नहीं दिखाया जाता है, ठीक है, एक्सेप्ट अगर मोदी ने तेल का दाम 2-3 रुपए बढ़ा दिया, ये सब। तो सिग्निफिकेंट चीज लोग तब देखते अगर यूसीसी लाते, उसका रिपरकशंस देखते लोग।
New Mexico, 22 delegates.
Madam Secretary, from New Mexico. New Mexico is known as the land of enchantment. We remember well when our citizens flourished and jobs were always available. Madam Secretary, we remember when the courts in our country were known for being fair and our borders were secure. Madam Secretary, we also remember who was responsible for that and who worked hard for America. That's why today, New Mexico cast all 22 votes for the next president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Pursuant to the announcement of the delegation and the rules and procedures.
या सिग्निफिकेंट एफसीआरए लाइसेंसेस हैव बीन कैंसल्ड। अब कन्वर्जन के लिए बाहर का पैसा है, जरूरी भी नहीं है भाई, स्पेशली क्रिश्चियन कन्वर्जन में। क्रिश्चियन लोग ज्यादातर मेन स्ट्रीम एंग्लो इंडियंस एंड स्टफ, दे आर इन गुड पोजीशंस। एवरीवन्स बैंक अकाउंट इज शूटिंग अप द स्काई बिकॉज ऑफ द स्टॉक मार्केट। दे विल गिव देयर मंथली डोनेशंस एनीवे, उससे बहुत कन्वर्जन हो जाएगा। और फिर इतना टैक्स ब्रेक्स है, इतना डोनेशंस है एटसेट्रा, कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है।
Debt free and sanctuary city free. As Secretary of State, along with all the delegates from Montana, we stand with a leader who has reshaped American politics and reinvigorated our spirit as a nation. He delivered on his promises, record job growth, historic tax cuts, securing our border, and protecting.
Rohit is asking, how did BJP lose the plot so much, lost the narrative war in academia, on social media, and ultimately went on the ground? Rohit, I wouldn't say BJP lost the plot on everything. On the things that you are thinking they have lost the plot, they didn't even think that there was a plot to begin with, or they needed to put up a fight. They believed that ground connection se sab ho jayega, especially in academia. I don't think they tried to do too much with it, and whenever they have tried, they have done absolute horseshit. They have eliminated Mughals. They have eliminated Babri Masjid's mention. They put in Manusmriti in law education, not in philosophy, history, Sanskrit classes. लॉ में घुसाया, 2 दिन बाद भगा भी दिया. तो इनसे एकेडमिया हैंडलिंग का उनका फंडामेंटल्स जो है पार्टी का, उनके मेंटल कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस जो है, उसमें ही ये चीज नहीं है. और देखो, हर स्टेट का ना हर स्टेट का एक स्पेशल एक्सपर्टीज होता है. जैसे कि अगर तुम मुंबई में जाओ, you will become a better music producer anyway, because you are, or become something better in every art field in anyway, because you will be hanging around with those people. You will be exchanging ideas all the time. Like, Underground Authority, right? There was a guitarist, Kuntalda. He used to be a guitarist of the band called Band, BANNED. Now he is not there anymore. Now he has left Underground Authority as well. So we used to rehearse in Godia, okay? Musebox, the rehearsal pad. So Kuntalda's band, he had not joined Underground Authority up until then. Even then, he was already a very good guitarist, and a very good, especially he was famous for his guitar tones. So my guitar tones got better because we were always hanging out with Kuntalda. And then from then onwards, my tone was always the best among all my friends, because no one else was really hanging out with Kuntalda that much. So when you mix among a society, you get their skills, okay? There's always an exchange of skills. So, my point bhul gaya. What was the point? Wait, I'll remember the point. Yes, so the thing is, every state has different sort of a bent of mind. तो आज गुजरात में हर घर में एक जीनियस बिजनेसमैन पैदा हो रहा है, ऐसा नहीं है. वो एनवायरनमेंट ऐसा है. हर जगह में जाओ, बिजनेस की बातें हो रही है. बिजनेस के बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस जो होते हैं, बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस इज अ वेरी सिग्निफिकेंट फ्रेज एंड टर्म टू रिमेंबर. दैट okay, I can let's say get to 6-pack abs. What's the best, quickest way to do it? How will I get to a 6-pack that will sustain over years and not go away like this if I just stop my workouts? Okay, तो वो होता है बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस. तो बिजनेस के बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस मुंबई में डिस्कस हो रहा है, गुजरात में डिस्कस हो रहा है, बंगाल में नहीं डिस्कस होते हैं. इन द सेम वे, बंगाल में आई थिंक बिकॉज ऑफ द हाईली पोलिटिसाइज्ड नेचर ऑफ आवर कॉन्वर्सेशंस, स्पेशली इन कोलकाता, आई वुड क्लेम वेस्ट बंगाल by default has a very social sciencey bent of mind. All this comes naturally to us. सिर्फ हिंदुत्व का वो स्विच होना बाकी है, जैसे कि मेरा हो रहा है. तो ये सब थोड़ा बंगालियों के हाथ में छोड़ना पड़ेगा.
I am directed by that district to cast its 19 votes for president in accordance with the rules.
District of Columbia, 19 votes to be cast pursuant to the rules and procedures of the convention. Thank you, delegates.
Everyone's so confused now.
No, I don't want Bengali PM. I want Bengali education minister.
All right. The chair is prepared to announce the results. The following candidate received the following votes: 2,387 votes for President Donald J. Trump. Let's make it official. Accordingly, the chair announces that President Donald J. Trump, having received a majority of the votes entitled to be cast at the convention, has been selected as the Republican Party nominee for President of the United States.
यहाँ पे एक विवेक और विवेक रामास्वामी का ही डिस्क्रिप्शन दे रहा है. विवेक रामास्वामी क्या हमारे चैट में आ गए हैं क्या?
The chair is pleased to appoint the following to serve as the escort committee for President Donald J. Trump: Eric Trump, Donald Trump Jr., Tiffany Trump, Ivanka Trump, and Barron Trump. Thank you very much. ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to introduce the Attorney General, and there goes the teleprompter.
अरे कॉपीराइट देगा भाई मुझे। कौन से गाने चल रहे हैं? कोई अच्छा एक और एक बढ़िया बैंड आया था उसके पहले। When songs of Mohammed Rafi are made into sleazy songs in Bollywood today, it just makes me pessimistic. Yeah. तो बॉलीवुड में कॉम्पोजिशन का बहुत प्रॉब्लम है, अरेंजमेंट का प्रॉब्लम नहीं है उतना। हाँ अज्जू, there's a dearth of good compositions which is happening because of the hiring way, the way people are getting hired today. एक तो है कि there's too much dependency on reference tracks, originality का कोई नाम ही नहीं है. Secondly, people who would have been better arrangers, programmers like me, they are getting hired as composers, which is a big problem. So that's why you are hearing bad compositions, but arrangements are, there's so much variety in arrangements. Arrangement is getting updated almost every day. तो which did not used to happen back in the 90s. No, 90s में composition का base इतना strong था, जतिन ललित ने भोसरी के वो एक bongo octopad से मतलब 2000 गाने बना दिए, कुछ किसी को फर्क ही नहीं पड़ा. अरेंजमेंट सेम अरेंजमेंट में मतलब 30 फिल्म बना दिए. आर डी बर्मन के सारे गाने में एक अरेंजमेंट था. फिर हाँ तो मतलब until Salim Sulaiman became arrangers for Jatin Lalit, everyone used to have same arrangements for their entire career. Today almost every song has a different genre, different arrangement. And today especially Pritam's song, how is Pritam surviving after, मतलब हम जब बड़े हो रहे थे पूरा 10 साल गाना झाड़ के चला दिया, अब उस सेम बंदे के पेट से सुर के बाद सुर, हिट सुर के बाद हिट सुर निकल रहा है. ये क्या मैजिक अचानक क्या खा लिया उसने? ऐसा नहीं है. उसका बहुत बहुत बढ़िया अरेंजमेंट का टीम बना लिया है उसने. उनके साथ जैम करके ओसी किसी ना किसी के तरह ओरिजिनल कंपोजिशंस बना पा रहा है वो. उससे भी बढ़िया है कि रिमेंबर वन थिंग दैट मोहिनी द फेमस बेसिस्ट सेड दैट देयर आर नो बैड कंपोजिशंस, ओनली बैड अरेंजमेंट्स. आज बहुत गाने चल भी जा रहे हैं जो कि नहीं चलते कुछ साल पहले तक, वो आज सिर्फ चल रहे हैं बिकॉज देयर आर अरेंजर्स, ग्रेट अरेंजर्स इन द इंडस्ट्री. तो व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज, व्हेन आई सेड दैट यू लर्न स्किल्स बाय स्टेइंग इन मुंबई, in the independent scene, though they are going on doing jazz and ukulele stuff, but in the industry, if they are pursuing the industry career, they will become great arrangers because great arrangement is happening in Bollywood. The biggest example is the recent song O Be Dardiya. Think of the composition. बिना किसी इंस्ट्रूमेंट से सिर्फ ओ बेदर्दिया गाओ, ठीक है? वो क्या भोसरी के अल्ताफ राजा जैसा कंपोजिशन है, ठीक है? वो एक कवाली कंपोजिशन है. ओ बेदर्दिया, ओ बेदर्दिया, ऐसा कंपोजिशन है. उसको क्या एम्बिएंट पूरा अलग जॉनर में अरेंज कर दिया, क्या जीनियस अरेंजर है. और ये तो और एक तुक की बात है कि up until now, up until 5 years back, every great arranger, every great arranger at least, most best session guitarists in Bollywood were Bengalis from Kolkata, countless of them. Now even that's being replaced. Best arrangers are coming out from Assam bhai. This DJ Fukan guy who has arranged this song as well. He's not actually a DJ. His name is something Diljit Fukan or something. Absolutely, I think probably the best arranger in Bollywood today. तो वहां पे भी बंगालियों का मारने वाला है लोग. ए भाई একটা প্রবলেম, জেডি ভ্যান্স কিন্তু জুডাইজম, শ্রিল আকবর, অ্যাডাম গ্রিন, নো মোর নিউজ এক্স, চেক করো স্লাইটলি কনস্পিরেসি থিওরিজ, বাট ओके ऑफ टॉपिक. बट कल्कि नहीं, आई हैव नॉट वॉच्ड कल्कि, द सीजीआई इज टू बैड. दादा हैव यू लिसन टू पिंक फ्लॉयड? ए ये सब ऑफेंसिव क्वेश्चन मैं नहीं लेता भाई. ये सब it's like asking J. Deepak that do you know what's the first amendment of India and stuff. No one can replace Kishore Kumar, a Bengali in Mumbai. And think of Kishore Kumar's versatility. वो शाम गा रहा है as a soft romantic soft young child. वो शाम ऐसे शुरू किया और वहां पे खई के पान बनारस वाला सेम वोकलिस्ट गा रहा है. ये वर्सेटिलिटी और कब आएगा वापस भाई मुझे पता नहीं है. Yes, Pink Floyd singer. No, you are talking about Roger Waters. He left Pink Floyd long back. Pink Floyd is also liberal, hates Trump, hates capitalism and stuff. But the guy you are talking about is Roger Waters. He used to be a bassist of Pink Floyd. He left long back. If you have time right now, can you react to Andrew Wilson versus Dave Smith on Christian populism versus secular? No, अभी नहीं time है. अभी टाइम नहीं अंकित, ये गाना वाना हो जाए, ये तो बढ़िया एक बैंड चल रहा है, अच्छा कंट्री म्यूजिक हो रहा था, मगर मैं तो कॉपीराइट खाऊंगा इसलिए मैं नहीं चला रहा हूँ। तो ध्रुव ज्योति फुकन, या तो इसके बाद ट्रम्प अगर स्पीच देना है वो देख के हम लाइव स्ट्रीम बंद कर देंगे। চায়ের থেকেই ওই চায়ের থেকেই আতেলগিরি গড়ে ওঠো। এফিন একটু ঠিকঠাক টাইপও না করে আরেকবার লেখো তো কমেন্টটা। দিব্যামণি সিং 2000 singers were versatile like Nigam KK. They were versatile than today's singers, but not to the extent of Kishore Kumar, you know, because KK was mainly overall a rock vocalist only. He got some eastern kind of compositions, especially the ones in his debut with who was that guy who did the music for Devdas and stuff. वहां पे केके का बहुत इंडियन स्टाइल ऑफ गाने थे, बट केके डिड नॉट रियली मूव अवे वेयर यू कैन सी व्हाई आई एम पुटिंग किशोर कुमार above all these people is that if let's say you have heard only the biggest Kishore Kumar hits, you won't, and all of a sudden I make you listen to Wo Sham, for the first few seconds you won't be able to recognize who the fuck this is, isn't it? But in every KK song you'll know who KK that this is being sung by KK. Same with Mohit Chauhan, who is Arijit Singh's favorite vocalist. Arijit Singh tried to do his voice only. Now Arijit sings in the same way in every song. Raj Barman, Jubin Nautiyal are Arijit Singh's copies. They sing in the same way in every song. Anusha Dasgupta. Finally, we have heard so many songs from Anusha Dasgupta. Finally, we can distinguish her voice from Shreya Ghoshal. She was a direct copy of Shreya Ghoshal. Palak Muchal. The first time I heard the song, Tu aata hai, I thought it's sung by Shreya Ghoshal. 2-3 दिन बाद पता चला कि वो श्रेया घोषाल ने नहीं गाया है. तो for the first time when Anupam Roy came on the scene, Amake amar mat thakte na, तो I thought it's sung by who's that who sang the Hoke Color Up? Shahana Bajpayee's husband, Arnab. I thought it's sung by Arnab. They were all similar singers. Arijit Singh has reached saturation point, and I wouldn't blame Arijit Singh personally for it, because that's the kind of industry he works in today. So many songs that you have heard that you think you like, but you actually like because of the movie it was in, because of the visuals, because Arijit Singh singing it sends out a certain signal in your brain. But objectively, you would like that song way better if somebody else sang it. Countless songs are being thrust upon Arijit Singh for absolutely no reason. तो अब अरिजीत कितने गानों को मना करेगा? मतलब सब तो उसको एरोगेंट बोलने लगेंगे. उसने वैसे भी बहुत मतलब अपने को दूर भगा लिया है. उसको अरेंजमेंट करना ही पसंद है. वो अरेंजमेंट अभी भी बहुत करता है. इंद्रदीप दासगुप्ता खुद कंपोजर है, जिसने वो बंगाल का बेस्ट बैकग्राउंड स्कोर कंपोजर है, मगर उसी ने बोला था कि हम उधम सिंह को ऑस्कर में नहीं भेज सकते हैं क्योंकि इट प्रोमोट्स हेट्रेड टुवर्ड्स ब्रिटिश. ठीक है, तो इंद्रदीप दासगुप्ता ने एक या दो फिल्में भी डायरेक्ट किया है. उसमें म्यूजिक किया है अरिजीत सिंह ने. कंपोजिशन अरेंजमेंट सब खुद का टीम का है. बहुत बढ़िया बढ़िया गाने हैं. तो अरिजीत सिंह लाइक्स अरेंजमेंट. प्लस ही इज द वन हु एब्सोल्युटली चेंज्ड द बॉलीवुड लाइव म्यूजिक इंडस्ट्री. भाई उसके पहले वो बहुत सालों का पहले का वो ऑर्केस्ट्रा अरेंजमेंट था. मतलब 30-40 म्यूजिशियन होंगे, मगर कोई भी ऐसा कुछ मतलब बहुत बढ़िया कुछ नहीं बजा रहा है, क्योंकि तब तो वो एज वी डिस्कस अरेंजमेंट वाज नॉट अ बिग फैक्टर एनीवे. तो आफ्टर अरेंजमेंट बिकेम अ बिग फैक्टर, people were still performing in a horseshit way in the live shows. Arijit Singh absolutely destroyed that aspect of Bollywood music. उसके वजह से बहुत बहुत बढ़िया रॉक ड्रमर्स, रॉक गिटारिस्ट को चांस मिला बॉलीवुड में, जिनको हमेशा के लिए बॉलीवुड के भोसड़ी वाले सिर्फ ये तुम रॉक म्यूजिक करते हो, ये क्या अमरीकी नाचा गाना है, क्या मुंडी हिलाते हो, कितना लंबे बाल होके ये सब क्या करोगे, ये सब चूतिया बोलते थे. ठीक है, अरिजीत सिंह के वजह से इन सबको ये मानना पड़ा. अरिजीत सिंह है एस्पिरेशनल मॉडल, अरिजीत सिंह किया है तो ठीक ही होगा. वो करके सबका जॉनरा चेंज हो गया लाइव म्यूजिक में. आज मैक्सिमम लाइव म्यूजिशियंस के, लाइव वोकलिस्ट, बॉलीवुड के लाइव वोकलिस्ट के लाइव कॉन्सर्ट्स बहुत बढ़िया होते हैं ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ अरिजीत सिंह. तो and what you'll notice is most of Arijit Singh's live versions that he does of songs are absolutely 180 degrees better than the original versions, especially in the show. And he does different arrangements for different concerts. Every year he changes the arrangements. If you check out Arijit Singh's MTV music video live concert in Mumbai from a few years back, listen to the songs that he rearranged which were originally done by Vishal and Shekhar and Pritam. Okay, भूल जाओगे ओरिजिनल गाना. तो अरिजीत सिंह कंफर्टेबल है अरेंजमेंट में, मगर उसको गवाया जा रहा है, नहीं तुम ही गाओ, नहीं और कोई नहीं है हमारा. एक्चुअली बॉलीवुड वाज बीइंग डिकोलोनियल बाय रिजेक्टिंग रॉक म्यूजिक. अरे वो चुतिए को तुम अगर गाना झाड़ने दो अरेबिया से, इजिप्ट से, इंग्लैंड से, तब वो झाड़ देगा, मगर वो गाना कम से कम 50 साल पुराना होना चाहिए. 50 साल पुराना नहीं है तो हम डिकोलोनियल बन जाएंगे, वैसा था. दादा मोहित चौहान के लिए की बोलबे? मोहित चौहान, I don't like that kind of singing. That's my only problem. The songs are great. I don't like that kind of laid back singing. Pooja Singla is asking Ajay Atul. I am a huge fan of Ajay Atul. अजय अतुल के नाम सुनते ही मेरे रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं. अजय अतुल मतलब जितना ब्रिलियंट कंपोजर, उतना ब्रिलियंट अरेंजर, उतना ब्रिलियंट ऑर्केस्ट्रेटर, वेस्टर्न क्लासिकल, मराठी फोक, इंडियन, सब कुछ सीख रखा है इन दोनों दो भाइयों ने भाई. और अजय अतुल को बॉलीवुड इतना माइक्रो मैनेज करता है, इसलिए वो लोग काम नहीं करते बॉलीवुड के साथ ज्यादा. ऐसा क्या है भाई, मराठी इंडस्ट्री में वो लोग काम करेंगे मुंबई में बैठ के, मगर बॉलीवुड में उतना काम नहीं करते हैं. उन्होंने बोला था ना एक रियलिटी शो में कि इंडस्ट्री में तो भाई बॉलीवुड में ऐसा है कि म्यूजिशियन को, कंपोजर को सबसे कम पता है म्यूजिक के बारे में, बाकी सबको म्यूजिक के बारे में ज्यादा पता है. टॉलीवुड में भी ऐसा होता है. टॉलीवुड में जो गाने तुमको अच्छा लग रहा है वो सारे पूरा मतलब एसवीएफ में 3-4 लोग बैठ के अप्रूव किया है, उसके बाद तुम्हारे कान तक पहुंच रहा है वो गाना. कुछ गानों में तो मैंने इतना भी सुना है कि एसवीएफ के मालिक के पत्नी ने भी सुन के अप्रूव किया है, तब जाके गाना फाइनली यूज हुआ है. ऐसा भी होता है. माइट बी अ कंप्लीट लाई, डोंट सू मी. तो अजय अतुल, उसका तुम वो जो झिंगाट गाना जिस मराठी फिल्म में था, जिसका वो रीमेक हुआ श्रीदेवी के बेटी के साथ, उसमें ओरिजिनल वाले तुम सुनो और बॉलीवुड वाले सुनो, हेवन एंड हेल डिफरेंस है अरेंजमेंट क्वालिटी में, मिक्स क्वालिटी में. और जो मैं कुछ दिन पहले मैंने शेयर किया था अपने कम्युनिटी टैब पे कि मराठी इंडस्ट्री का फिल्म जो कि महाराष्ट्र के बाहर कोई देखेगा नहीं, उसमें ओरिजिनल ऑर्केस्ट्रेशन कर दिया एलए में जाके रिकॉर्ड करके. और बॉलीवुड का मैं सुन के बता रहा हूं, ये कौन सा वीएसटी का कौन सा सॉफ्टवेयर का साउंड है मुझे पता है, पूरा सॉफ्टवेयर में मार दिया, थोड़ा बहुत 1-2 प्लेयर हायर किया हुआ होगा, या फिर अगर नहीं भी हायर किया है तो इतना घटिया मिक्सिंग है इन कंपैरिजन टू द मराठी वर्जन that it sounds like it's software recorded. I would bet it's completely software recorded. तो ये है चुतियापा बॉलीवुड का in comparison to even the मराठी इंडस्ट्री. and more so, वो तो उस फिल्म का रीमेक था इसलिए एक्सेप्ट कर लिया, नहीं तो वो झिंगाट वाले मूवी में ऐसे कुछ गाने हैं जो एक सीक्वेंस है ना, इसको क्या हुआ, खत्म हो गया क्या लाइव? ओ अभी भी चल रहा है, ठीक है, कोई आएगा. अरे गाना चल रहा है. तो एक सीक्वेंस है, एक ड्रीम सीक्वेंस है, वो लड़का स्लो मोशन में वो शुगर केन प्लांट्स के बीच से स्लो मोशन में दौड़ते जा रहा है. अब मैं तुमको बोलूं, ये टॉलीवुड में, बंगाल टॉलीवुड में या फिर बॉलीवुड में ये सीन अगर मेरे पास बैकग्राउंड स्कोर के लिए आता, मुझको चूतिए पहले बोलते कि इसमें थोड़ा मराठी फ्लेवर डाल दो, इसमें थोड़ा शुगर केन प्लांट है तो वो गांव का फ्लेवर दो, हर कुछ में लोकल फ्लेवर. ये हैंस जिमर ने थोड़ा रिसर्च करके वो जगह का फ्लेवर देना शुरू कर दिया, तो अब हर जगह में वही फ्लेवर, वो लोकल फ्लेवर ही देना है और कुछ इंटरप्रिटेशन हो ही नहीं सकता है. मगर वहां पे अजय अतुल ने क्या काम किया है, पूरा का पूरा प्योर वेस्टर्न क्लासिकल घुसा दिया है एक गांव के स्टोरी में, क्योंकि वो कॉन्ट्रास्ट ही वहां पे ब्यूटी क्रिएट करता है. ब्यूटी किसी को समझ में नहीं आए तो हम क्या करें? याद लगला नो, राइट? Don't forget Ilayaraja. Yes, absolutely. Dada, do you like Radiohead? Yes, I like Radiohead. Someone was asking about Rammstein. Dada, do you like Rammstein? I don't like System of a Down. I like Rammstein. I like System of a Down's vocalists' background scores. They are absolutely brilliant, okay? But Rammstein is insane. Rammstein's Riser, Seaman Riser. वो एक हमारे बंगाली में वो सेलर्स के फोक को भाटियाली बोलते हैं. वो राइजर बेसिकली जर्मनी का इंडस्ट्रियल मेटल भाटियाली है, क्योंकि वो सीमन को लेकर, सीमन मतलब स्पर्म नहीं, SEAMAN, राइज सीमन अराइज. वो गाना हर कोई जाके सुनो भाई. आर मोर लेफ्टी बट डैम देयर फकिंग सॉन्ग्स आर. यस दादा, सिड श्रीराम के सुनेছো फ्रॉम? अरे Sri Sriram, I have been following him since he was in Berkeley. Okay, so Sri Sriram is a Berkeley graduate, Berkeley College of Music graduate in sound engineering, which means तुम उसको नंगा करके 2 पीस लकड़ी देके जंगल में भेज दो, वो वहां पे स्टूडियो खड़ा करके बिजनेस चला के सुपर हिट एल्बम खुद रिकॉर्ड करके मिक्स करके रिलीज कर देगा. वैसा कैपेबिलिटी है सिड श्रीराम का. सिड श्रीराम आई थिंक मेड हिज डेब्यू इन द फिल्म आई गेस. आई थिंक ए आर रहमान फर्स्ट नोटिस्ड हिम. Dada Sitar Metal. Are Sitar Metal to played with Arijit Singh in the very show we were talking about, okay, in the MTV Music Video Awards. And by the way, Shastri, do you remember Sitar Metal is our viewer? He even donated to our live chat, super chat someday. And now that guy, not the main guy, not Rishabh. Rishabh's, I think, accompanying guitarist. He's a Bengali guy. He follows me on Facebook and Twitter as well. Opinion on Autotune and Beat Detective. Autotune, to the software is called Autotune, but it's not left on Autotune. You have to manually pitch correct. You have to manually shift with your mouse and pitch perfect every tune. That I feel is necessary these days because पहले क्या होता था? Everyone used to record live with all the musicians, no? And all the musicians means about what? At least 10-15 musicians at that spot, if not at least 10 musicians, or record बाकी और भी 5-10 लेयर 15 लेयर और भी बाकी बाद में रिकॉर्ड होंगे. तो वो सब, since all of that is acoustic instruments, real instruments with real wood, real steel, etc., हर जगह पे थोड़ा 19-20 होगा ट्यूनिंग में. Therefore, if the vocalist also sings a little out of tune, 19-20 जो कि होता है, वही ह्यूमन है, वही नेचुरल है, तो वो अलग से कान में सुनाई नहीं देता था. आज क्योंकि 99% अरेंजमेंट फुली प्रोग्राम्ड है सॉफ्टवेयर के हेल्प से, अब सॉफ्टवेयर में वो सब सॉफ्टवेयर, अगर मैं वायलिन सॉफ्टवेयर यूज कर रहा हूं, फ्लूट सॉफ्टवेयर यूज कर रहा हूं, वो सॉफ्टवेयर भोसड़ी के उसके सारे नोट्स पिच परफेक्ट है. तो उस पिच परफेक्ट अरेंजमेंट के ऊपर अगर नॉर्मल वोकलिस्ट अपने 19-20 से गाए तो उसको पिच करेक्ट करना ही पड़ेगा, नहीं तो वो बहुत कान में स्ट्राइक करेगा. SP Bala was legendary, yes, obviously. Ravi Shankar collabed with some big ones. And in fact, Bongoputra, have you heard Gojira? Gojira, the famous French metal band, an environmental death metal band who had gone vegan for a while. Their song Slivera is also about veganism only. So when Gojira came to Bangalore, they dedicated their show to Pandit Ravi Shankar. ACSK, I want a suggestion. Kolkata, is there any good Rudravina teacher? I might move back to Kolkata with work from home job. Ektu shasta hai. There's a good teacher. I don't know if he's alive anymore. I forgot his name. He's in Goria mode. Okay. Shujoy Boshu. Shujoy Boshu and wait. Let me confirm one thing. No. I confused Rudravina with Mohan Veena. I meant the Hawaiian classical style of thing, which was created by Mohan Bhatt. So Rudravina teacher, I don't think there is any in Kolkata. Mohan Veena teachers are there. Shujoy Boshu. Sigur Rós is a great band. Yes. Dada, do you like techno? I don't like trance. I like EDM stuff. Don't be judgmental. My body, my life are bad philosophy. That's why we need philosopher. अच्छा ये कौन सा discussion चल रहा है? तो SP Bala, yes. M Shastri is asking when. I remember Pandit Ravi Shankar was a Hindu metal or rockhead. अरे? M Shastri, what when? Gojira came, I think, in 2013 or 14. Favorite Metallica album? Black. Pandit Vishwa Mohan Bhatt, yes. Bhai Bangalore achi, but we'll move soon. Yeah. Goria Mure Shujoy Boshu teaches Mohan Veena, which is the Hawaiian guitar. Amit Trivedi, yes. This is one other insane arranger who happens to compose. I don't think he's that great a composer, but probably, I mean, top 5 arrangers in Bollywood today. I think you once mentioned you love Steven Wilson. I have seen Steven Wilson live as well. And there's an insanely semi-embarrassing story I have with Steven Wilson. Okay. So kya hua tha? Steven Wilson came to perform in Shillong 2016. I was going to see the show. So when I'm sitting in Kolkata airport, and I was going with 2 other friends, all of a sudden I see people on my Facebook, on my friend list, people who I know are also going to the Steven Wilson concert, probably in the flight after hours, or maybe 2 flights after hours. They are all of a sudden posting pictures with Steven Wilson sitting in Kolkata airport. So I always obviously lose my mind. My friends lose their minds, and they are wondering where is Steven Wilson. स्टीवन विल्सन बंदों के साथ फोटो खींच रहा है कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट में बैठ के, और हम भी कोलकाता एयरपोर्ट में ही है. तो we could not find him. Then immediately in 5 minutes we had to board. So we boarded the plane, and then we see in the plane very next to us, Steven Wilson along with his entire band is getting into the plane. Okay. So again, we are losing our minds. We can't click. I did click some pictures. You couldn't understand anything from the picture. Then when we land on Guwahati airport, an even more embarrassing thing almost happens. I did not know that Guthrie Govan had left Steven Wilson's lineup by then. Guthrie Govan is officially my absolutely all-time favorite guitarist. Okay. I've even read his 2 books on guitar playing, which really helped me. So I was about to go and ask their current guitarist, who I thought is probably a manager or some roadie. I was about to ask him that, where is Guthrie Govan? I can't see him. And Steven Wilson walked by right in front of me. I was flabbergasted to talk to him. Then I saw that guy whom I did not know. These guys are not famous band people. No, they are session guitarists who play with different people in different times. I was about to ask the guitarist, where is Guthrie Govan? I did not ask because the organizers from NH7 Bacardi, they said that, bro, let him chill. He's very tired. So I said, okay. Then I go outside the airport, and my friend, he is clicking a selfie with Steven Wilson because he's sitting in the car and his window is up, and he's clicking a selfie with him, and then immediately posts it on Facebook and says, looking somewhere but not here, because he has a famous song called Arriving Somewhere but Not Here. Then on the night of the show, when Steven Wilson is up on the stage, then I saw that the guy I was about to ask about, Guthrie Govan, he's actually the guitarist of the band. Holy shit. Amit Trivedi is brilliant. Insane. Yes. You met Steven Wilson in person? Yes, Steven Wilson walked by in front of me. With minimal arrangement, he can create magic like A.R. Rahman. Yes. Taxi Driver was playing Lamb of God when I landed to Shillong. Nice. Freddie Mercury or Paul McCartney? I don't like both of them. I don't like that genre. Dada, Ongorak Papon Mahantoke niye ki tomar? I have watched Papon about 3 times, okay? আমাদের বাড়ির পিছনে ওনার পৈতৃক বাড়ি গুয়াহাটিতে. Oh, acha. Huge fan of Papon. But the problem is people have not heard his best songs. People usually have heard his Banao, then Gaye Tum Gaye Hoto, etc. His best 2 songs, in my opinion, are Assamese songs. One is Ujaye Janoy, and one is Jonaki Rati. Listen to these songs, guys, okay? Ujaye Janoy and Jonaki Rati, Papon's Ohomia songs. You'll lose your minds. Black Album production is best metal production ever, but Justice for All is better compositionally. No, absolutely not. In my opinion, best produced metal album is Tesseract's Altered State album. Chal Ke Tujhe is a fail-safe song for me when in trouble. My favorite Kishore Kumar song is Rimjim Gira Savan and Wo Sham. Dada Anjan Datta শুনেছো? Yes, since I was a child, because I grew up in a commie sort of a household, and there Anjan Datta, Shuman, Nochiketa were the staple. Nochiketa was not the staple for CPIM families, of course, because he used to criticize CPIM all the time. But he was still liked by the not that staunch CPIM, but kind of leftist, those kinds of people. So people in my family liked Nochiketa. So yeah, Anjan Datta forever. I've been listening to his works, and I'm a huge fan of his direction as well. Bong Connection, according to me, is the greatest Bengali movie ever made, and I've watched Anjan Datta live as well in Park Street. Steven Wilson asked us, how did Porcupine Tree become famous in India? We told it was because of piracy. Yes. Papon is a brilliant arranger. No, Divya, Papon doesn't arrange his own songs, okay? For his live band, of course he does, but Ujaya Janoy, Jonaki Rati is co-arranged with his guitarist. Ujaya Janoy is arranged by a legendary Assamese singer whose name I am forgetting at the moment. Amar to Samurai Kolia. Yes. Even that one is great. O bhavre jharne leke dena sagar ko jaake sandesa. Do you know about Kunan Poshpora hoax who maligned Indian military? No. If he did arrangement of his MTV Unplugged and Coke Studio songs. Yeah, he did not do it. I'm forgetting the name of who did it. It's probably his mix engineer, the guy who mixed it probably arranged it, or his guitarist. Papon did not. I remember this. Especially his MTV Unplugged Ghazal album. Oh my god, what an arrangement. Dada Tokari of Papon, yes. ভাই নচিকেতা তো এখন মদখোর হয়ে গেছে, কি সব লাইভ করে, ইয়া, and is a cancer survivor, no? Greatest Bengali movie, this should be a topic of debate. जितना डिबेट करना है कर लो भाई. Bong Connection is the greatest Bengali movie of all time. Do you like Mohinar Ghoraguli? Yes, I do. But again, Mohinar Ghoraguli's most famous songs are not their best songs, according to me. Moimon Singh Gitika, although Cafe Pia Cafe is pretty popular, I think those are the best songs. And that Binita Kemon Acho, Mintu Kemon Acho, that song. Meghe Dhaka Tara, according to Art Film fan friend of mine. I'll bet he has not seen Meghe Dhaka Tara. But actually, there was another Meghe Dhaka Tara, okay, which was based on Hrithik Ghatak's life. That one is a pretty great movie. Zubin Garg Borgit, yes, Zubin Garg's Borgit. Have you all heard, guys? Do you all know what a phenomenal album Salim Suleiman made in 2020, guys? I love telling people this story. Sorry if you all are getting bored with the music talk. So, Salim Suleiman did 2 or 3 albums 2020 onwards called Bhumi 2020, Bhumi 2021, Bhumi 2022. Okay, they are doing phenomenal EDM kind of arrangements with Indian songs. Listen to their Krishna Bhajan with Shreya Ghoshal with full EDM arrangement. Okay, but when was Salim Suleiman? What was their kind of first famous break in the industry? It was Dhoom's background score. Okay, not Dhoom's music. Dhoom's music was done by Pritam. Dhoom's background score was by Salim Suleiman. So even before that, in the year 2000, Salim Suleiman had made another album called Bhumi. That was basically their first Bhumi album. Now, when I was living in the hill stations, my grandmother went to visit me from Kolkata. So back then in Kolkata, the Bangla band Bhumi was already famous. She thought, I'll just introduce my grandson to this cool new band I'm hearing about in Kolkata. So she thought that she's buying that Bhumi album in that hill station where no one knows of any Bengali album only. She by mistake bought that Bhumi album. And back then, though, no one used to read the back inlays and stuff, no. But the songs were so phenomenal. I was in class 3 back then. I absolutely lost my mind with that album. I used to listen to it on loop 24/7, year after year. When I grew up, when I got interested in music in my personal life, pursuing music and stuff, then I decided, I remember that album. There were so many great songs in that album. Who did those songs? Then I found out it was done by Salim fucking Suleiman. And then I found out all those songs after a lot of searching, because 2-3 brilliant songs that were there. One was the one sung by Ustad Sultan Khan, who sung Piya Basanti Re. Okay, the Ustad Sultan Khan has a brilliant song there called, which was actually used in a low budget indie sort of a Bollywood movie, Hindi movie as well, that Kate Nahi Ratri Mori. You won't believe what a great song it is, bhai. Tumhara dimag aaj hil jayega. कटे नाही रात्रि मोड़ी बाई उस्ताद सुल्तान खान, सुन लो, वो है सलीम सुलेमान का अरेंजमेंट. कॉम्पोजिशन प्रोबेबली सुल्तान खान का खुद का है. तो वो एक ब्रिलियंट है. वो एल्बम का महत्व ये था कि सलीम सुलेमान में पूरे देश में घूम घूम के हर देश का एक लोकल फ्लेवर का फोक लेके उसका खुद का मॉडर्न अरेंजमेंट किया था. उसमें एक बांग्ला फोक भी है. इट वाज संग बाय, आई डोंट रिमेंबर व्हिच दास बाउल. ही इज अबाउट 94 years old now. Okay, that Bangla folk song is pretty great. It was pretty fascinating for those days as well. But there was a brilliant Marathi song as well, Marathi folk song. It's called da 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 Baba Jesuri da 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 tayali da 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 da. ये सॉन्ग था मराठी में. अभी वहां पे एक अहोमिया गान था, वो जुबिन गर्ग ने गाया था, वो था बॉर्गीत. वो गाने का नाम है खूनो खूनो, KHUNO. वो अभी जाके सुनो, एकदम तुम 3 दिन पूरा लूप में सुनोगे वो गाना. वो गाना कॉम्पोजिशनली ब्रिलियंट है, अरेंजमेंट वाइज ब्रिलियंट है. सबसे जो बढ़िया काम है उसमें कि तब तो वैसे उतने अच्छे म्यूजिक सॉफ्टवेयर्स नहीं थे. तो खूनो खूनो में सलीम सुलेमान ने जो अरेंजमेंट किया है, उसके ऊपर एक बहुत बढ़िया डिसीजन था कि बेस गिटारिस्ट, जिसको कोई भाव नहीं देता था तब बॉलीवुड में, तब तो बेस गिटारिस्ट मतलब था डिंग 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 डिंग, ये बजाते रहेगा पूरा सिर्फ कॉर्ड लेके. वो पूरा का पूरा गाने में बेस गिटार, फ्लूट और वोकलिस्ट जुबिन गर्ग, तीन लोग के साथ सवाल जवाब करते हैं. जुबिन गर्ग कुछ गा रहा है, वो फ्लूट में बजाया जा रहा है, फिर बेसिस्ट वो सेम मेलोडी बेस में मेलोडी के तौर पे बजा रहा है, ठीक है। फिर जुबिन गर्ग कुछ गा रहा है, वो एग्जैक्ट नहीं बजा के उसका हार्मोनी बांसुरी में बजाया जा रहा है, फिर उसका एक कॉम्प्लीमेंटरी बेस में बजाया जा रहा है, और बाकी गाने में भी बहुत बढ़िया बेस प्लेइंग है। बहुत बहुत इंसेन गाना है खुनो खुनो। I received some classical training for 2 years. That's when I became a fan of classical musicians. I see. I became fan of classical music because of Mekal Hassan Band. Again, by a mistake, because a sort of a elder bro in my family thought it was a metal band from Pakistan. So because the artwork was like that, and he misread Mekal as metal. So he bought it for that reason, and then I was by mistake introduced to Mekal Hassan Band when I was in just class 9. Yes, Huno. Gangajal, that became a popular song. Piya Basanti Re. Yes, very popular. Beautiful video as well. What do you have to say, Mamata Banerjee going to capitalist Ambani wedding? See, Mamata Banerjee knows that she'll have to bring capitalists now. She has, I think, realized it. What she isn't being able to do is control her people. I think she's going to employ Abhishek for that. Abhishek is the next generation. He is trying to do the things now because they are running out of money at all ends. They know what to do, which is why they kicked out all the Bengali Hindu hawkers and stuff. I think they are going to sell all that stuff to Saudi UAE investors and Muslim businessmen here. Capitalism is about to happen in Bengal, I think, but it's going to happen at the hands of Muslims. মালটা কিন্তু নকশাল ছিল মহিনের লিড। তো সি মহিনের লিড কে you can't say mal because of his phenomenal contributions, because everyone was a Nakshal back then. Whoever was a bad singer, bad poet, period kobi, Antorbash niye lekha kobi, everyone was a Nakshal. So he was a Nakshal who at least made some significant contributions to people's lives. So you can't use the word mal for him. Ben to 1 घंटा पहले ही बोल दिया JD Vance. Yeah, JD Vance has been announced. We are just waiting for if Trump does something here. My classical stalwart was Vidushi, Veena Sahasrabuddhe, Dada Vande Ganapatim Sunbe. Okay. I have a cover of Shakti Sahita Ganapatim when I was in college, or no, I was in a job, I think, back then. It's not the same song, I know, but anyone listens to Arabic nasheeds? No. Marty Friedman, Megadeth is the best metal lead guitarist. Absolutely not. John Petrucci. किचु की हवे खाने, यहाँ पे भी गाना ही चल रहा है। कितना देर गाना चलेगा? कोई तो घर भी नहीं जा रहा है, इसके बाद कुछ होगा शायद। दादा कुलदीप एम पाई यूट्यूब चैनल टा सुना। I've heard of this name. Who is he? Kuldeep M. Pai. Oh, yeah. I listened to his work extensively. Absolutely. Dada, why jazz drumming is considered toughest? Jazz drumming is considered toughest by only snobs, okay? Although I would say jazz is probably the one of the 2 toughest genres. Whichever genre where there is a higher barrier to entry, there obviously it will be considered toughest. Now, extreme metal is of course insanely tough. Jazz में dynamics का और भी महत्व है, तो वो भी tough है, मगर the kind of extreme metal that some bands have done, things like let's say Tesseract, Dream Theater to some extent, but especially Meshuggah and stuff, वो चीज कोई जैज ड्रमर भी जिंदगी में 10 बार जन्म ले तो भी बजा नहीं पाएगा, ठीक है? Rock drumming is a different style. Rock drumming is different, but it's the barrier to entry is lower. But in order to be a very good rock drummer, again, the kind of practice and control will require a lot of time and practice. But you can at least make something sound rockish, okay, after just 1 year of drumming. You have to play dik dik ta tikka dikka dikka. These are the common rock drums. But with jazz and extreme metal, you can't even pretend to play it, okay? वो pretend करने के लिए, it's like the difference between cricket and MMA. MMA में basic, जुजित्सु में basic करने के लिए ही तुमको बहुत सारा कुछ सीखना पड़ेगा. क्रिकेट तो तुम घर में जो खेल रहे हो या फिर रास्ते में, वो क्रिकेट ही है after all. मगर वो मेक बिलीव भी तुम एमएमए के फील्ड रेल में नहीं कर सकते हो. Yes, Whiplash, one of the greatest music films of all time. Who composed La La Land songs? I don't remember. I don't like that kind of genre also. As far as I remember, La La Land was composed by one of the composers I like actually. Let's see who composed La La Land. किसी को पता है क्या? La La Land. Oh, La La Land's director was Whiplash's director. Yeah, that's why I remember the name. Yeah, music was by Justin Hurwitz. Justin Hurwitz कौन है और क्या क्या प्रोड्यूस किया है? फर्स्ट मैन, बेबीलोन, Whiplash. Oh fuck, Whiplash का म्यूजिक किसने किया है? तो सोचो, हाँ तो जीनियस आदमी ही है. अब क्या करे, ला ला लैंड का जॉनर हमको पसंद नहीं. Great jazz drummers can easily become rock drummers, but vice versa is pretty hard. Yes. M. Shastri, not all cases, let's say drumming like Alter Bridge, which is also rock drumming basically, simple sounding 4/4 beats. Even that kind of playing with that kind of swag and that kind of flamboyance, वो भी ना jazz drummer से नहीं होगा. They will hold the stick like this, play brush and simple dynamics. ये वैसा चीज उनसे ज्यादा हो नहीं पाएगा. थोड़ा बहुत हो जाएगा. Papon's Pratima Boruati, Pandit Anderson. P.T. Anderson is my favorite director of last 20 years. Megadeth's first drummer, Gar Samuelson, was jazz originally but became metal. Yes. John Petrucci's only solo I like was The Best of Times. Okay, then you have not heard Hollow Years live in Budokan, right, Files? If you listen to it today, you lose your mind again. Again, it's a hilarious thing because Hollow Years' original solo is absolutely horseshit in the album. Wherever they perform the song, the solo is that boring solo only. And for only the live in Budokan concert, they made a different solo for the song Hollow Years, and it's probably John Petrucci's best solo. If not, it's not his best solo. Then the one, I think that song is called Best of Time, which is from his 1992 gig in Tokyo. Okay, वहाँ पे John Petrucci bass solo बोल के एक solo था. I forgot the name of the song. Was it Best of Times? That is also one of his best solos. Hollow Years again is an insane solo. And I like the solo from Under a Glass Moon as well, which is considered like the 37th greatest metal solo of all time. Gorgo, come feed the rain. Come feed the rain. John Petrucci, Glasgow Kiss. Yeah. I actually listened to Glasgow Kiss in G3 before I listened to Dream Theater. My question is, what is jazz and how is it defined? Define अब कैसे करे? Definition नहीं होगा. You have to listen to it and you'll understand. Dada, do you like Jimi Hendrix? Absolutely not. Dada, have you listened to Poets of the Fall? Arey bro, I am a 33-year-old metalhead. I have heard all of these things. And Poets of the Fall has come to Kolkata twice. The second time I could not go because I was bedridden after an accident. The first time I could not go because I could not afford the tickets. It was 600 rupees. They came both times in Nojul Mancho. And the second time something weird happened. What Escapes Me was supposed to open for them. After coming to the venue, Poets of the Fall announced that no, we don't allow anyone to open for us unless they pay us. So the organizers had some miscommunication with them. So after Poets of the Fall performed, everyone almost left. After that, What Escapes Me performed. How do you approach writing guitar solos? Do you follow chords or play in the key only? I mainly follow my ear because I don't. I've not taken to too much theory, and now though I've done music for so long that I don't need to know what's the chord. वो एक मजेदार स्किल है. वो मुझे पता ही नहीं था कि बाद में हो जाएगा. पहले हमको पूछना पड़ता था कि अच्छा भाई क्या कॉर्ड है, अच्छा क्या स्केल है, उसके बाद मैं सोलो बजाना छोड़ूंगा. अब कोई प्रॉब्लम ही नहीं है. यहाँ पे अभी जो चल रहा है नॉइज, यहाँ पे सुन के मैं अभी उसके साथ इस स्केल में इस कॉर्ड में सोलो बजा सकता हूँ बाय जस्ट प्रेडिक्टिंग व्हाट्स द नेक्स्ट कॉर्ड गोइंग टू बी. तो in terms of approach, see, did I tell this story a few days back? So Shushmit Sen, in Indian Ocean's guitarist, has had the most knowledge, even though I did not most influence on my guitar playing unknowingly, even though he's not my favorite guitarist. I really like his work in the Kandisa album, but I have listened to the Kandisa album so many times, and I have such a genetic predisposition to like and do Indian classical since I'm an Indian after all. And since I liked Mekal Hassan band so much, which is basically a classical fusion metal band, that unknowingly my guitar playing has become like Shushmit Sen. Although I'm not mainly a solo guitar player. Whenever I have played in a band, I have mainly done the arrangements, played the riffs and stuff. I've mainly been a riff player, which is why my guitars are like that. Have you all seen this? Right. This is not a guitar that you play your guitar solos in. That's the kind you play your riffs in. So, but whenever I do play solos, it ends up sounding very Indian classicalish, especially because I never liked blues, and without a blues background, you can't really play rock solos. So I have to try to pretend to sound like a rock guitarist. Otherwise, I end up playing only Indian classical solos only. If you can write sheet music for tabla, that sheet will easily work with jazz drumming. Jazz drumming is closer to Indian percussion, and absolutely. Hence, I liked metal all the more when I started listening to metal and Indian classical later on. So I realized, what, it's the same kind of complexity. तो ये क्लासिकल वाले मेटल को गाली दे रहा है, मेटल वाले क्लासिकल को गाली दे रहा है, क्यों भाई, ये क्या चुतियापा है? रिपब्लिकन्स का गाना बेंचो गाना बजाना ही चला ये तो सेलिब्रेशन है, ट्रम्प गोली खाया, प्रेसिडेंट बनेगा भोसड़ी के, चलो नाचो. Maybe because jazz is invented by black people and it has African roots. Interestingly, I don't like blues, but I like jazz. Jazz was built on top of blues, which was authentically created by black people. But since blues was then done by white people, jazz can't be credited, I think, entirely to black people, although mostly black people. If you listen to the early jazz guitarists and stuff, everyone you Google will obviously come out on to be the black ones only. But significant things have happened in the jazz space in later on in the hands of white people as well. But blues was completely created by black people entirely. But John Mayer has taken blues to an entirely different level. Insane. Check Vivek's tweet congratulating JD. Okay. You should start a project for Hindutva metal. Republicans ka gana bajana. Yeah. So Dada Agam with Harish Pravin. Yeah, Agam, no, I keep hearing the band's name. Oh, no. That's Agam, right? Yeah, I've heard only that song. Nazrul Mancho means Nazrul Tirtho, right? No. Nazrul Mancho is the one on Robindra Sarovar Lake. Aren't you from Kolkata? You don't know about Nazrul Mancho? Nazrul Tirtho is in Rajarhat. Nazrul Mancho is the authentic hub of rock music where first rock music started happening. Nazrul Tirtho is just, 5 years old or 10 years old. Have you listened to Megadeth or Doom soundtrack? Bro, I'm a 33-year-old metalhead. I've listened to all of this. IIRC Tokyo Ghoul drummer is trained in jazz. Yes, lots of great non-jazz drummers have come from jazz backgrounds. Like Guthrie Govan is not entirely a jazz guitarist, but he has jazz training. Black music went from people like Miles Davis to gangster rap. And Divya, there was a point in black hip-hop history, right from 2000 onwards up until fucking Obama became president, when black hip-hop was trying to incorporate white people's music. They had given up the hatred against white people. That was, I think, probably the best phase in US history. It was, all the songs were about self-introspection, self-blame, that I'm making a mistake, I need to correct this and stuff, or see how much pain that woman is, etc. So and they were they were taking influences of, guitar playing, etc., drumming, all that was entering hip-hop. All of a sudden, after Chutia wokeism started because of Obama, then hip-hop went to hell again. Before that, hip-hop was already great because of Tupac and stuff. There was Bhosri wala hip-hop, there was great hip-hop as well. 2000 onwards, there was phenomenal hip-hop, especially at the hands of people like Wycliffe Jean, Wycliffe Jean and Bone Thugs and Harmony. Check out this song, which we can't play here, obviously. This is I'll show you my 3 all-time favorite hip-hop tracks, You won't believe the arrangement, lyrics Google में बैठ के जरूर पढ़ना, और melody, arrangement, कौन सा छोड़ के तुम कौन से पे फोकस करोगे, सब ब्रिलियंट है. एक मिनट में दिखाता हूं. बोन थग्स एंड हार्मनी का एक गाना है एकॉन के साथ, I tried so hard, not I got so far. ये है मेरा दिख नहीं रहा है ना. हाँ, ये है मेरा ऑल टाइम फेवरेट हिप हॉप सॉन्ग. ठीक है, ये गाना कभी सुन लेना. नेक्स्ट, I'll show you my second favorite hip hop song of all time. Wycliffe Jean, Sweetest Girl, again with Akon. These songs are arranged by a Haitian Western classical prodigy, by the way. insane song. Then you'll have to listen to this song's unplugged version as well, Sweetest Girl unplugged version. Insane song, written about a prostitute, but you won't be able to figure out. Okay. And then this song, Wyclef Jean was doing a cover of Pink Floyd, okay, and then putting his rap into it, okay, and saying that how as a black person he was growing up in those black neighborhoods, but still his brother got him into listening to rock music, therefore changed his perspective towards music. That's the kind of music that was happening in America. You can't imagine these things. And the song I talked about, I Tried So Hard, उसमें ऐसा ही lyrics है कि Lord please help me from stopping, Lord please help me to not inflict this pain on my family, etc. ऐसे lyrics तुम आज expect ही नहीं कर सकते हो black लोगों से. सबका दिमाग का भोसड़ा बना दिया है ओबामा ने और सोशल साइंस ने. तो दिस इज माय थर्ड फेवरेट हिप हॉप सॉन्ग ऑफ ऑल टाइम. वो पिंक फ्लॉयड का जो हाउ आई विश विश यू वर हियर गाना है, उसका एक हिप हॉप वर्जन कवर है. Insane. He has sung the melody parts as well and then has put in his rap as well. Brilliant lyrics. Incredible songs. Then Wyclef Jean did a song with Simon and Garfunkel's Paul Simon as well. Okay. So these guys were collaborating with white people with genres that were created by white people. Unthinkable today. Listen to this song as well. These four are my not probably this fourth one, but those three are absolutely my all-time three favorite songs. अच्छा, ये गाना बजाना कब तक चलेगा भाई? अब थोड़ा ढूंढते हैं और कहीं पे और क्या हो रहा है. Let's see what Tucker's saying.
A demonstrably weak person with a facelift who's like terrified to go out in public, and yet she's telling people they can't buy paint in a paint store. That's not strength. That's fragility. She is fragile and brittle, and that's why she's acting that way. True strength is calm. That's the first thing about strength. Someone who's actually strong is in command, doesn't need to prove it, because people can smell it. The second thing about strength is it serves others. Willingness to die for the people you lead is a prerequisite, okay? I'm not afraid. I'm willing to lay down my life for you, okay? That's clearly the message of strength. It's what Trump displayed on Saturday, and people's reaction to it is amazing. They instantly calm down. Dad's home. Everything is okay. It's received on a visceral level. So to the extent that the campaign, and I'm not a messaging person, obviously, I'm like half insane and can't stop talking, so I'm not good at messaging, but to the extent that they can convey that, it's fine, actually. And I do think the campaign is trying to say that in its unity message. And a lot of people hear unity and they think, well, unity implies some sort of compromise conversation. You can't have a conversation with people who are unwilling to compromise. The left, which is a religious movement, is unwilling to compromise on any level at all. They won't even admit men can't become women. So how can you have unity with people like that? And of course you can't. But I think what they're really trying to say is, let's ignore some of the insanity, actually. Be in charge. You don't need to constantly remind people you're in charge. Just do it. A good father's not constantly telling you how hard he works to, pay for the food you're eating. He just does it. And you notice after a while, and you're calmed by that. And I think maybe that's the message. We don't need to respond to all this nonsense. You're too small to respond to. That's what I would do. No one wants to hear, why is MSNBC still on the air? Nobody watches it. Same with CNN. Nobody watches it. And if I look back on my life, I've worked at both CNN and MSNBC. So for me, it's, the hatred is absolutely real. But too much, though. Too much. Unhelpfully. Don't feel hatred. That itself is a sign of weakness, in my opinion, and a lack of self-discipline. But why are we even talking about them? Nobody watches. Nobody watches. My nephew get drunk and post something on X, and he's got more viewers than MSNBC primetime. I'm serious. So, why are we even giving them oxygen by engaging with them? Their audience is tiny. I hope that's part of what they're saying. I saw Don Jr., who is really my favorite person.
Yeah, Rutvik, that uptick has come from the anti-Israel lobby of the white supremacists. The people who are absolutely opposed to Israel. People who hate Jews and stuff. तो वो देख रहे हैं कि हमारा बहुत प्यार मोहब्बत चल रहा है इजराइल के साथ, इसलिए और भी एक्स्ट्रा उनका मतलब झांट में आग लग गया है. तो did you hear Tom McDonald's You Miss song? No. तो ये मुझे इसमें कमेंट करना था कि Vignesh is saying woke was a term that black people used to mean be aware of injustice, and that white liberals started using it when cancel culture came in, and then angry white conservatives started using it to combat the liberals. No, it was not that simple. Up until 2008, wokeism meant what you were saying. After 2008, the big banks who were fearful that everyone is coming for them now, Occupy Wall Street movement and stuff has happened. Everyone hates capitalism all of a sudden. Everyone is economically pissed off with the establishment. That's when they start funding, propping up the race baiters, racial narratives, anti-white narratives in the fringes of the academia. Therefore, the wokeism that we know today, that gets propped up since 2008 onwards, and Obama absolutely fans it, goes on fanning it, because he gets his votes are guaranteed because of it. That's when wokeism loses the plot, and so does America. Dada, how do we write libertarian non-left process that the left radicalism is at its peak, that they are committed to do anything and forget logic, truth, dignity, empathy? Ask your government to liberalize gun laws. Ask your government to then give you free speech. Then ask your government to free the temples. Then ask your government to put in non-left academics at the top of academia to fuck up these people, because these radicals are coming from the academia, nowhere else. The brains, the ideas are coming from academia. वो ground up तो नहीं है, उसको counter state को ही करना पड़ेगा. Obama wasn't really anti-white because he's a neolib. Neolibs are just conservatives with a blue face. See, no one is really what their political, let's say, stands are or policies are showing, right? Yeah, in personal life, Obama might not be anti-white. His rhetoric had become absolutely anti-white, especially after 2012. Where was wokeism before 2008 or even 2012?
In Trump world, who really I think does understand.
Yeah, hey, Obama deported more people than Trump. Obama built those cages where Trump was accused of keeping people. Trump put parents in cages and stuff. So Obama would have been a conservative by today's mapdand, but those were in policies. He even fucked up Libya. But in rhetoric, he knew he had to stay in power and do those stuff, and he was a neocon anyway. He wanted to fuck up other countries. He was ready to be the establishment's bitch. I think he was propped up because of the Wall Street movement and because wokeism was about to happen. Everyone knew they were going to fund wokeism anyway. All these people propped up Obama, and then Obama went on with his anti-white rhetorics. Biden has also started deporting many. What is the big difference between Trump and Biden when it comes to India? Not directly anything, but in general, Biden is going to fan the commie flames harder, जिसके flares India पे आते रहेंगे. Trump will try to fuck the commies up a little bit, which will cut their wings a little in terms of screwing with India a little. That much only. During Obama's time, liberals were trying to degenderize language. They went after Latinos for using Latina, Latino, Spanish for Latin American, to describe Latinx. Yes, Biden has also started. Let's listen to this.
You'd be saying this, but it's true. Understands the voters and how they feel.
Yes, absolutely. उनका और कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है अब, मतलब अब क्या करे, मोदी से ही काम करवाना पड़ेगा, वैसा सिचुएशन है.
Like on a real level, on a gut level. But I saw him do an interview with MSNBC today, and they're like, are you going to separate more families at the border? Really? You let in tens of millions of illegal aliens and wreck our country, and that's your concern? And he just looked at the guy, he's like, yeah, go away. Like, enough. He didn't yell at him, just go away. I mean, it's not even worth it, actually. And I think that posture is kind of what's needed right now. I'm not going to engage with you. I've tried for 7 years now, 8 years, to have a conversation in good faith. I used to try to book these people on my show. Not one person would come on my show to debate the other side. And then, of course, I got fired anyway. But it's like it's better just to be like calm and in command. And I think that restores tranquility to the country faster than any rhetorical argument you could make.
So that's high profile national example, which is great.
Guys, many people are online. Let's have fun. Let's check out Swapan Das Gupta's speech, and then if there are enough people, let's check out Ram Madhav's speech at the National Convention, okay? I haven't listened to the Swapan Gupta speech as well. Let's analyze what he said. Let's see if he said anything. सिर्फ 20 मिनट का स्पीच है, वो भी तो उतना स्लो स्पीच होगा. अरे तो क्या 10 मिनट बात करके चले आए क्या?
In a gathering of American conservatives, which is no longer a fringe movement, as we've been told at very time, it's certainly a government in waiting, as some people would like us to believe, and I think that's quite true, that in such a gathering, Indian conservatism or trends or political trends in India have entered the radar. And I think that's interesting in many ways because the Anglosphere has hitherto been slightly wary of accommodating the conservative trends in either, say, Japan or Israel or even India into its fold. So that's a new trend, and I think it's a positive one. Now, when we approach the subject of why India sometimes doesn't get America or why America also doesn't get India, it's curious because on the face of it, the relationship between the two
उसके लिए ना मैं राम माधव को दोष नहीं दूंगा. वो बॉडीड होना ही था. वो बॉडीड इसलिए नहीं हुआ कि उनका स्पीच खराब था. वो बॉडीड हुआ क्योंकि भोसरी के अब्दुल और वो एंटी जूइश लोग आ गए थे. इंडियन है, गाली देना है, इसलिए आए थे. मगर अगर सच में अगर वहां जैसा दीपक जैसा कोई होता तो उनके मतलब सेन अमेरिकन कंजर्वेटिव्स इतने कॉम्प्लीमेंट्स देते कि वो चूतियों के कमेंट्स ढक जाते. वो ढका नहीं. ये प्रॉब्लम है.
democracies is actually as robust and vibrant as can be imagined. Okay, there are occasional points of friction, but compared to what the special relationship Israel has with the United States, the frictions are nowhere as profound or as marked.
Good question, Files. He's asking, what is your views on some states in US teaching 10 commandments and Bible in public school? I am with Amartya Sen on this one. I absolutely support it. अरे कुछ कल्चरल कोहिजन बिना कंट्री नहीं चल सकता है. हर कंट्री, हर लेजेंडरी किंगडम मैक्सिमम 100-200 साल चलता है. हर कोई जब पैदा होता है किसी किंगडम में उसको लगता है कि अब तो ये तो हमेशा हमेशा के लिए चलेगा. राजा राममोहन रॉय को भी लगा था ब्रिटिश तो भाई अब हमेशा रहेंगे. सबको लगा था. ये नहीं चलता है. यू शुड नॉट फक विद स्टेबल सोसाइटीज. कुछ कोहेरेंस चाहिए और वो तो 10 कमांडमेंट्स सिखाएंगे. दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू प्रिवेंट यू फ्रॉम डूइंग एनीथिंग एनी टाइम सून. तो कुछ कोहिजन लाओ वापस. कुछ चुतिया, कुछ आइडेंटिटी नहीं है अमेरिकन आइडेंटिटी नाम का. ऐसा कैसे चल सकता है? अमर्त्य सेन भी यही बोलता है कि ब्रिटेन में ये डिफरेंट सिख स्कूल, हिंदू स्कूल, मुस्लिम स्कूल ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. अगर तुम जाते हो तो कोई सेक्युलर स्कूल में जाओ, नहीं तो सबको क्रिश्चियन स्कूल में ही पढ़ना चाहिए क्योंकि वो देश का आइडेंटिटी है. अब अमर्त्य सेन ये हिंदुओं के बारे में नहीं बोलेगा तो हम क्या करें? तो एज वैल्यूज ऑब्वियसली महाभारत रामायण शुड बी टॉट. वी शुड बी टीचिंग आवर किड्स इन द मॉरल साइंस क्लास. तो होता है मॉरल साइंस में चुतिया क्या सिखाता है तो वहां पे सिखाओ. राम कितने बड़े आदमी थे, महाभारत में कितने जीनियस मूव्स किए थे, ये सब सिखाना चाहिए.
A special relationship. I mean, I thought the special relationship was across the pond, but never mind. In the past, there has been a tendency on the part of the United States to view India purely through the lens of Whitehall. That was an old tradition, and for a long.
Vignesh, what is ABCD? Just curious from an ABCD perspective, why doesn't there exist a space libertarian conservatives in right-wing areas? What is ABCD perspective though? And what do you mean by when you say that there doesn't exist a space? You mean Indian right-wing space, right? Can you elaborate a little your question? Liberals want to begin with ground zero and their ground zero means forgetting. Yes, the blank slate. What happened to the D'Souza guy? He's fully up and going. I mean, he's tweeting all day. Dinesh, ABCD is equal to American born. Confused they see. Oh, acha. There's another meaning in Bengali. All Bengal Changra department. I thought, why is he talking about that? So yeah, right wing doesn't exist in India. Yeah, pretty much. महाभारत के मिसरिप्रेजेंटेशन की वजह से ही बोल रहा था. कल की देखी क्या? अच्छा नहीं, मैंने नहीं देखा है. Vignesh, do you mean in the Indian context, right? Okay, there was another, I think, interesting comment. राजा राममोहन रॉय, अरे ठीक है, वो उनका एक्सक्यूज है कि वहां पे मतलब क्रिमेशन ग्राउंड नहीं था इसलिए बड़ी कर दिया. अब क्या करें? ठीक है, सुनते हैं.
time it was understood that the Brits perhaps understood India a little.
Here I disagree, Ninner. I think it's only a matter of time. I was predicting this. These are the first, let's say, sparks of my prediction coming true. Okay, ये होना ही है. आफ्टर ऑल लोगों को समझ में आएगा कि भाई एक है सिविलाइजेशन, प्रो सिविलाइजेशन स्टेबल स्टेट, पेट्रियोटिज्म, कल्चर एटसेट्रा, एक साइड है पागला चोदा. The unity will have to happen between the sane pro civilization people. It's an inevitability, I'm arguing. See what happens.
A little better than the American.
Yeah, Vignesh, तो इंडिया में प्रॉब्लम है कि I'll blame everyone for this. So in India, the right wingers are not really right wingers. They just hate the left for hating Hinduism so much. That's mostly the Indian right wing. So there are a gradually fast growing number of libertarians in India, most of whom are fucking assholes, who absolutely hate India and Hinduism as well, who have absolutely no idea how to preserve a country. They don't even think a country or a culture needs to be preserved. And everything is about open trade. And when you say that, no, I'm against complete open trade, I am in favor of some amount of economic nationalism, they will call you a communist. Now, they usually call people like me lolbertarians, that I believe in some semblance of a culture for the country. And so I call them lolbertarians now. And people like me all call these stupid, dumb libertarians lolbertarians. Thank you, Bhupendra, for the donation. Let's listen to what Shapan Das Gupta is saying, then we'll get to Ram Madhav. দাদা তোমার মনের কথাটা বলার জন্য থ্যাংক ইউ। কোনটা? BRICS is a paper membership for neutrality. Switzerland is very much integrated into globalist economy.
Understood India. Whether that's true or not is debatable, but anyway, that was the conventional wisdom. Both countries, I would say, across the Atlantic and this side, however, didn't understand that there is a phenomena called Indian conservatism. For a very long time, it was believed that the political consensus in India veered around a loose sort of Fabian construct. And it was sort of determined by sort of upper class labor politicians with some occasional hint of conservatism coming in here and there.
This is actually a good speech. It's just that not fiery and rousing, that's all. It's a good academic speech.
Which Mr. Nehru epitomized. And Mr. Nehru had a certain aesthetic disdain for America, if you see what I think. He thought they were subtly crass.
Yeah.
And it was not a very unusual point of view. He reflected the conventional wisdom of the country houses of England at that time. However, this has changed quite a lot. There is a very vibrant, energetic, entrepreneurial Indian diaspora, which is there in the United States now, doing phenomenally well. If I'm told that I think they're giving the Jewish community a run for its money as far as the per capita income is concerned. But that may just be hearsay. However, the political influence of this community is still very, very patchy. It's still a relatively new community as far as America is concerned. It's there. More important, I think, as far as this community is concerned, which is broadly technocratic in nature, which is heavily concentrated in the professions, their exposure to Indian conservatism is skin deep, if at all. Now, what exactly do we mean when we're talking about Indian conservatism? What are the three cardinal principles? Firstly, unlike America, unlike various parts of Europe, in India, the term nationalism is not seen as a pejorative construct.
Was this speech before or after Ram Madhav? Ram Madhav said exactly this same point. Why was this such a significant point, and why were both of them saying this point? Didn't they discuss their speech amongst themselves? Kya ajeeb baat hai bhai?
It is seen also as something which embraces both sides of the political divide. So a large number of liberals too would actually say, oh, we are nationalists as well. The question is, whose nationalism is better? That becomes the thing. in the 19th century, when nationalism became a sort of a defining hallmark of India, it was often said, why was this? What was the main preoccupation? The main preoccupation of the nationalists at that time was asking the question, why is an old and ancient civilization like India in a state of political subordination? Why has it lost its sovereignty? And this still hangs over the definition of Indian conservatism. Remember, my friend Ram Madhav will obviously elaborate at length about them. But I just want to say that there are three features of Indian conservatism which I think are very important in defining, in understanding it, in understanding the Modi government, in understanding the present currents in India.
ओ ये तो एडमंड बर्ग फाउंडेशन है, तो इन लोगों को तो स्वपन दासगुप्ता बहुत सालों से ही पहचान वाले होंगे, क्योंकि स्वपन दासगुप्ता आइडेंटिफाइज एज अ बर्कियन कंजर्वेटिव.
The first is the preoccupation with national unity, that India is one. The unionist argument, you might say, if I might use an American analogy, it's the unionist argument, which is very, very important in that sense, that India is one and India is indivisible. The second issue which comes about as a result of that is the question of national identity. And this is very important because throughout the 19th and much of the early part of the 20th century, it used to be said that India is much of a nation as the equator. That India is just something which has been patched together as a geographical entity, and it's a contrived.
Yeah, it's a Hinduism doesn't exist. It's an ambiguous collection of disbanded, disparate principalities and castes and jatis, varnas. As a country, it's also the same, but Hinduism is so united that it's a majoritarian threat to minorities. At the same time, it's disunited. It's too disunited to have a name of its own, and it's so united that it's a threat at the fucking same time.
Contrived nationality. It's a contrived nationhood that, just like Hindus are made up of different conflicting sects, and James can tell you much more about the fact that to find a unifying theological trend in Hinduism is quite it's quite a challenging proposition. That how can this be an identity? And therefore, was this something which was a modern identity, which was created post-19th century, or has been an identity which has been existing in the past, and that it's not a political identity, it's a cultural identity?
And the answer for this complex question, we have an answer to this, some semblance of an answer, for just two people, because of two people, Bankim and Savarkar.
That's the point. And I think this cultural identity is something which is often missed out by a lot of people.
So good. Allow me to disagree with you here. See, Varna is an inevitable thing. So, Varna-based bad behavior is obviously unwanted, but you'll have to apply the Varna logic to everything. Whether you think of yourself as 4 Varnas in your personal life, that's an important thing to decide. But largely, people have to choose their fields. So, Swapan Dasgupta is a Brahmin. You can't ask him to be a Kshatriya. So, he gets called into the Kshatriya field, therefore he gets into it, but he's better off for these things. तो वो उसको मतलब काम में लगा कौन रहा है? That is the problem.
Who are looking at India from the outside. You mentioned the case of the citizenship laws, which are actually very similar to the law return. Exactly, it's exactly the same. And I was there in the select committee, which was there, which debated it. And the idea was that when it comes to religious persecution, this is important to point out. Religious persecution, Muslims don't get persecuted on religious grounds in an Islamic state. They may be persecuted for other reasons. Freedom of speech, economic reasons, there could be lots of them. I have a very good friend, Taslima Nasreen, from Bangladesh, who's been persecuted because what she writes is seen often as blasphemy. But those are rare. Most of them have been persecuted for other reasons. Whereas the persecution of Hindus in Afghanistan, there was a very considerable Sikh population in Kabul, which used to be the...
Good speech, guys. Good speech. Good speech. Not rousing, but at least informative and academic.
Moneylenders of Kabul at one time. Now, after the Taliban came and they've been turfed out, why have they been turfed out? Partly because they're Sikhs. I mean, you have a choice. You convert or depart. And under those circumstances, it is, I think, a natural obligation on the part of India to give them citizenship. And that, for example, my family comes from what is now Bangladesh, which was East Pakistan at one time. Now, being a Hindu in Bangladesh is not a very happy situation to be in. And a large number of them have come over to India. Now, if they are denied that citizenship, or what was believed at one time to be a unified Indian state, that, to my mind, is wrong. So the question of national identity is very, very important. And finally, there's this question of national recovery and resurgence. And I think this is very important. The fact that you're sick of being in the third world.
What Bhupendra is saying here, this might be very true.
And there was a time when people used to celebrate and romanticize the third world. When I was a student and in the late 60s, that used to be a good sort of
cultures, colors, spirituality, yoga.
Leftist radical thing, third world first, stuff like that. People used to go to Nicaragua. I think Salman Rushdie went and wrote about the Jaguar smile, and Fidel Castro's posters quite the rage at that time. Well, it's no longer the case. I think people want facilities. They want a standard of living which is comparable to the first. Well, we haven't got there. It'll probably take a long time to get there. But at least as far as infrastructure is concerned, as far as facilities is concerned, I think I would say, having landed at JFK, that our airports in India are far, far superior. I can that I think somewhere the development of infrastructure got stuck after the New Deal in America. Well,
it's
the point is a latecomer does have advantages.
Yeah.
And I think it's got to be understood that a lot of the impulses in India, political impulses of India, stem from this desire that we will no longer be patronized, we will no longer be looked down upon, that we won't only sell the idea of a 1,000-year Buddha, which can sell a lot of mystics over and it'll give employment to people in Cambridge.
Yes.
Apart from selling yogi,
Nina, to be honest, no one gives a shit about him. In BJP circles, he's respected. Outside, not many people know about him. Even if they know about him, they don't just care. I mean, the commies, which is the most of Bengal.
Yogis and gurus and things like that. There is another India.
Nice, nice.
At
Good
one
speech.
time, Indians used to be thought, they were looked upon as, in the 70s, when you used to go to Heathrow, you would be told that, oh, the sweepers are Indian. Now, I think here you come across and you find that this is the CEO of Google is an Indian. So we've moved a little bit from there. So the idea is that your aspiration and your political impulses have suddenly converged at a point where conservatism, where taking into account the inheritance of India, what your identity is, what your cultural roots are, it's not cosmopolitanism. And that's where the fault line in India is. Between those who see development as being part of the globalizing impulses of the world, and those who see progress in terms of also depending on who you are. That your identity as Indians are very, very important. And this is something which is occasionally not understood. The cultural...
in their hearts, maybe, but in real terms, no. And now, it seems like that desperation for false equivalence, but I hope you understand that I'm not meaning it just that way, because the thing I'm about to mention from the Indian side is in way lesser degree, which is that Hindu Indians in general don't have a problem with Christianity or Christians, but they do have a skepticism, maybe a healthy amount of skepticism for the white West and stuff like that. Most of it is baseless because the real problem they don't often get. So all I'm saying is that both people on some grounds hate each other, but the time that we are living in now, there both people are about to realize our choices are civilization, nationalism, patriotism, culture on one side, and Pagla Chodamo on the other side. Which will we choose? Which will American right-wingers choose? Because the enemy is the same. That is the most important part.
Pride which goes in. So, one of the biggest fault lines which there in the United States, and I think this is the cause of a lot of friction between Indian and American conservatives, is the question of religion. What is considered anathema in India and a great source of abhorrence is the idea that you should convert. Now, the idea of conversion does not exist in Hinduism. So you must realize that.
Fuck. This is a ballsy move. देखो भाई, इसके लिए तो स्वपन दास गुप्ता को क्रेडिट देना पड़ेगा. इसने क्रिश्चियन कंजर्वेटिव्स के सामने जाके कन्वर्जन का बात भी छेड़ दिया. ये बहुत क्रेडिट का काम है. ये हार्श ट्रूथ है, उनको सुनना पड़ेगा. सुनने के बाद एक्सेप्ट करना पड़ेगा कि फिर भी भाई एनिमी कॉमन है. ये बढ़िया काम किया है स्वपन दास गुप्ता ने. He is kind of saying that, see, we are such a better religion that we don't even have conversion. This is good shit.
It doesn't exist. You're born a Hindu, you die a Hindu. You may believe in it, you may not believe in it, but you still. The Hindu umbrella incorporates people who are atheists. So it's a cultural phenomenon. So when this evangelical movement is being spread, funded from the United States, it creates a lot of friction, particularly when it is accompanied by a form of rhetoric which thinks of Hinduism or the Hindu customs, faith, etc., as something primitive, barbaric.
My respect for Swapan Das Gupta just went up 2-3 degrees, because अगर हमको कोई यूनिटी करना है, वो सब तो ये सब क्लैरिफाई करने के बाद ही. ये सब अंडर द कारपेट छुपा के यूनिटी का फायदा नहीं है. स्वपन दास गुप्ता took the bull by its horns. Brilliant stuff.
And not worthy of consideration in the 21st century. And I think this is an issue which I think requires some dialogue and understanding. And I would like people who are involved, and I understand that the cultural identity, the cultural underpinnings of the United States is to a very, very large extent Judeo-Christian. This is something.
तो एपीजमेंट खेल गए भाई. प्रोटेस्टेंट देश को फिर से ये भी जुडियो क्रिश्चियन बोल ही दिए. ठीक है, अब क्या करें?
Which I think it didn't require Samuel Huntington to point it out, but he did point it out, and it was something which we accept, that there is a cultural root, just as in the United Kingdom, I still believe that the Anglican Church, or at least the Anglican Church which once existed, was a very important point in defining what that identity was. Likewise, it's important to realize that what is in India is that there is a large cultural underpinning. It's not.
No, I did not mean that they don't know about conversion. I'm saying Swapan Das Gupta's bringing this up is a very significant thing, because he's opposing it. And in fact, saying that it's such a lowly thing that we don't even do it. That is very significant. And especially what he just said, that it's okay. USA has its Judeo-Christian culture. British people have their Anglican church culture. We have our Hindu culture. And we'll all have to get along, because the enemy is the same. That is the underpinning here. And this is a very significant and very important start, a very good way to start this collaboration between the world conservatives. Good shit by Swapan Das Gupta. Nice.
Exclusive. It's not exclusively. Let me point it out, that there is a very important Islamic input there. There's a very important Sikh input there. There are other inputs there. In southern India, there's an important Christian input there. But by and large, don't forget that the underpinnings of our civilization, our culture, our identity is what we might loosely call Hindu. And that when you confront this theologically, you are actually creating a rift which sometimes becomes.
No, I don't think Vivek was going to take any cabinet position anyway. I would be surprised if he did. At best, it was VP, but even then, VP is a fucking nobody's job. I thought he might take it because of the name and stuff. I guess Vivek had said this all along, that I'm not a very good number 2 person. I work best, I function best when I'm at the top. So at best, if he had become a VP, he would not have any real powers. He would be just Trump's attack dog. So attack dog he can be anyway without being VP. He's going to go on with his 4-year campaign now. ये बंदा तो रुकने नहीं वाला है. उसका अब 4 साल पूरा इलेक्शन कैंपेन चलेगा, तुम देखते रहो.
Unbreachable. I believe there is a natural alliance and understanding which reaches conservatives of the United States, the United Kingdom, and India. And that understanding is just growing.
Nice.
That awareness is growing. India, we didn't really have something called conservatism for a very long time. I remember in my Twitter handle in 2009, I put by instinct a conservative. Most people say, what is that? What exactly is that? What do you mean? Are you one of those who wants to go back to the 18th century in terms of your custom? So that was a certain stereotype which existed.
Interestingly, Kaladin, I think you are both of your statements. I mean, the first part is not correct, but the second part is correct. I'm saying it is going to happen, but it will also become harmful to us because after that war is done, they will come for conversions again. तो हमको उसको भी रोकना पड़ेगा. अभी का प्रॉब्लम तो पहले सॉल्व करें ना.
I'm glad to say that those stereotypes don't exist any longer. But a formal relationship, a formal communication, understanding, dialogue, conversation, which involves people of the right in the UK, in US, Australia, New Zealand, the Anglosphere, as it were, the Commonwealth, you can call it, whichever one to call it, Japan, Israel, this is overdue. And I think there are issues, which is not that we will necessarily agree with everything. That is why there's something called a national conservative thing. It is national or it is nothing. What Disraeli once said, conservative is either national or it's nothing. And that national part is very, very important. But above all, I think there is that commonality which we need to explore. And I hope when you all have your regime change in November, this process of trying to understand.
This is very significant, guys. An Indian nationalist going and openly saying, and with a positive smile, that yes, we expect your nationalists to come to power as well. These are the beginning, small baby steps and nuggets of a united global right. It's happening, guys. And this is a very good start by Shrapan Dasgupta. I think it was kind of spoiled by Ram Madhav.
Because, like you, we have often been called the stupid party. Just like y'all are being looked down and the objects of tremendous amount of liberal condescension, what the Ivy League does to y'all, we've been subjected to exactly the same thing. I went to rather elite institutions, and I often get, there's a sort of alumni network which is there in WhatsApp, and you often get, they're just petrified of what's happening in America. Someone is ill, and therefore the country, therefore the entire regime is falling apart. The whole country is falling apart. It's the end of civilization as we know it. Well, I hope it'll be the end of that civilization as we know it, and there'll be a better civilization. Thank you very much.
Very, very important speech. If not rousing or powerful, if not inspiring, I want to listen to this while working out, but this was an important beginning. Good stuff. और इसको तो कम व्यू मिला राम माधव से 33K व्यूज. गुड कमेंट सेक्शन. देखो यही राम माधव को नहीं मिला. अरे एम शास्त्री का कमेंट है 3rd पे ही. क्या बात है. एम शास्त्री बोल रहा है कि वाह, national conservatism is bringing some of the big guns in conservative thinking from India. I'm glad to see some recognition of free thinkers from India that is not cut from the same cloth as Oxbridge Lutyens Ellis, aka India's liberal elite. Nice, bro. Representing College Street, Kolkata in the international platforms. Now Ram Madhav ji. Ram Madhav Netcon.
Right there.
Ludwig is saying, continued, people don't realize how Protestantism has seeped into East Asia as a silent process through Protestant work ethic. बहुत सारे चीजें तो इनएविटेबल है रुद्विक. अब उसको हम नाम दे के और कंट्रोवर्सी ना बढ़ाए तो ही अच्छा है. This is India response of US interference in our elections. Yes, Indian politics is far of US politics. We had our own. We had our rigging even. Lalu did everything Democrats are doing today. Now, for the accent, you can't blame Ram Madhav because I guess that's his from the state he is from. I guess it's a southern accent, I think. साउथ इंडियन एक्सेंट नो. रुद्विक का पहला कमेंट कहाँ है? रुद्विक का सिर्फ सेकंड हाफ आया कमेंट का, उसने तो कंटिन्यूड लिखा है, अजीब बात है. ओके, लेट्स लिसन टू राम माधव अगेन.
We all revel in our misinformation and misconceptions.
Yeah, the other problem, big problem with Ram Madhav was that now these things used to be accepted up until few years back. अभी तो टेलीप्रॉम्प्टर वो ग्लास के सामने होता है, किसी को पता भी नहीं चलता है कि वो भोसरी के टेलीप्रॉम्प्टर से ही पढ़ रहा है. तो एक विजुअल एक आइडिया बन गया है कि वो ऑलमोस्ट तुम्हारे तरफ देखते देखते बात करेगा. वो नहीं हो रहा है. और आजकल विवेक, बेन शपीरो जैसे दीपक जैसे लोग एंडुटेट ऐसे ही बात करते हैं विदाउट लुकिंग एट एनीथिंग. तो राम माधव पूरा का पूरा स्पीच देते हैं अपने टैब के तरफ देखते देखते. वो भी एक प्रॉब्लम है.
Let me take it up first. Why are we here? Firstly, we are here because we have huge respect for Dr. Hajoni's valiant efforts in upholding the flag of conservative nationalism under most trying circumstances. Secondly, we are here to tell you that we share most of the ideas that you, the netcons, consider dear: God, religion, tradition, family, patriotism, nationalism. And finally, since yesterday, we have been hearing about the struggle story of the conservatives in country after country, from Hungary to Poland to UK to France to USA. 10 years ago, had we attended a similar conference, probably a similar sob story you would have heard from us too. But today, we came here to tell you about the success story of conservatism in India. The story of the defeat of the left, liberal, Marxist, radical Islamist cabal in India. Friends, first about this national conservatism. India is a deeply religious country. Conservatism is in its blood. The Pew Research Foundation's one survey suggested that almost all Indians, 98% to be precise, say that they believe in God. Roughly 80% in most religious groups say they are absolutely certain that God exists. To borrow the phrase of John Micklethwaite, India is, quote unquote, the right nation. Similarly, nationalism is also nothing new for us in India. Unlike in the West, there is no pejorative meaning attached to that word.
Now, imagine, guys, we are listening to this at 1.5. Imagine what the audience was going through. Listen to this in original speed. ये मोदी का स्पीड से भी मतलब स्लो है शायद. मोदी आई लिसन टू एट 1.75x 2x. अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी वाज आल्सो लाइक दैट. आज मैं 2 पंक्तियां कहूंगा. What's the point? I mean, imagine how stupid and low IQ the audience is that they have to speak in that speed, otherwise no one will fucking get anything. And which is usually misconstrued as bholapan of our Indian masses. It's not bholapan, it's low IQ. It has happened because of bad diet, colonialism, the countless famines, poisonous arsenic filled water, those kinds of things. ये भोलापन नहीं है भोसरी के. वो कांतारा में एक सीन है which really annoys me when people call it bholapan and not low IQ stupidity. That have you all watched Kantara? Everyone has watched Kantara. So when the guy threw the bomb at the police and Rishabh Shetty asks him that, अरे बॉम्ब क्यों तो फोड़ दिया पुलिस के साथ, पुलिस के सामने. तो ऋषभ शेट्टी obviously wrote the scene as, I guess, भोलापन. So the problem is, a real life villager might have also said that, but it's not bholapan. The villager, I mean his Abu, that character's name was Abu. Abu replies, अरे तो जला दिया था, हाथ में फट जाएगा इसलिए फेंक दिया. So he is so low IQ that he doesn't understand that Rishabh Shetty is asking that, why did you throw a bomb at the police? He thinks he is asking, why did you light it and then throw at the police? तो ये low IQ चुतियापा है भाई, ये भोलापन नहीं है. ये सब बदलना पड़ेगा. इतना गांडू होने से नहीं चलेगा.
In fact, our entire independence movement against the British colonialism is dubbed as
M. Shastri, am I calling you low IQ? नो अरे हाउ कैन यू एंजॉय द स्लो पेस? ये जैज है क्या ये तुम्हारा? मतलब एक अच्छा एम्बियंट, एक लाउंज वाइब का बात थोड़ी है। बात 60-60 बोलो और निकलो और कुछ और बात करो। ये स्लो पेस के साथ प्यार मोहब्बत कैसे हो सकता है?
National movement. Interestingly, India's main opposition party may not always stand for the values that we, the ruling party, stand for. They definitely don't call them as conservatives, but they call themselves as Indian National Congress. Nationalism, conservatism are not the other in India, like in US and Europe. India is national, and India.
Yeah, that's a great argument that if you're not a native speaker of the language of to then you'll. But why is he supposed to care about the not the native speaker, and isn't he supposed to care more about the person who actually knows that language?
Is conservative. Friends, that is why we prefer to call ourselves or distinguish ourselves as cultural nationalists. As the name suggests, we derive our national identity from our ancient culture. Some call us Hindu nationalists. We don't mind that label as long as it is not misunderstood as religious nationalism. It's not. We stand not for theocracy, but for dharmocracy, in which the word dharma represents universal values that ancient India stood for.
Dumbas Mishra is saying no, he's speaking slow and proper. Where has he spoken faster than this?
Something like the 10 commandments for the Christian world that Yoram talked about yesterday. In short, cultural nationalism can be understood as the Indian equivalent of national conservatism. Friends, like you all, we too had to wage many battles against the left liberal ideology for decades after independence in 1947. In fact, one of my colleagues, Dr. Swadesh Singh, is sitting here. He called that ideology as the Nehruvian consensus.
Yes, Netaji also used to speak quite slowly. तो ये नेताजी का तो दोष नहीं है, वो तो ऑडियंस लो आईक्यू था, वो नेताजी को भी पता था। तो ये मोदी, अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी, इनका तो दोष नहीं है। दोष राम माधव का है क्योंकि इनका तो शायद मतलब ऐसा ही स्पीड है।
A liberal, socialist, secular, globalist ideology, which dominated India's ruling elite during the initial decades of our independence, championed by the first Indian Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. Our religiosity was at stake. Our cultural identity was at stake. Our national unity was at stake due to that Nehruvian socialist secular ideology. But what we did was unique. We didn't try to take head-on at the political level alone. Instead, we built a strong, grassroots, popular conservative movement in India. Through decades of hard work by organizations like...
You see how inaccurate that statement is? ग्रासरूट्स कंजर्वेटिज्म मूवमेंट आरएसएस ने कैसे बनाया भाई? पूरा का पूरा देश है कंजर्वेटिव। कहीं पे रास्ते पे गे दिख रहा है उसको मार दे रहा है, बेटी को बोल रहा है अपने कास्ट में शादी करो, ऐसे कपड़े मत पहनो। हर कंजर्वेटिज्म का अच्छा दिख, बुरा दिख, सब कुछ है, ठीक है। बंगाल में हर घर में सब कोई पूजा पाठ कर रहे हैं। उसको हिंदुत्व का मतलब जो कंजर्व करना है ये समझा नहीं पाए। नॉर्थ ईस्ट में ग्राउंड कनेक्शन कर लिए, तो ये कंजर्वेटिज्म मूवमेंट आरएसएस ने बनाए हैं, ये कैसा बात होगा? I think slow speaking adds to the gravity, especially for men. I guess it's an art form in the end. Therefore, in art, it can be subjective. So I don't see how Andrew Tate, Jesai Deepak, Vivek Ramaswamy, Ben Shapiro lack gravity in their speeches.
Like the RSS, a strong grassroots movement of resistance to liberal globalism was nurtured in our country. And it took some...
Sagar, actually, the dharmocracy term was, I guess it's a start, but it is a bit of a problem because you just randomly conjured up a word. There's absolutely no scholarship behind it. There's even no awareness or even consensus behind it. You just thought of a term and you thought it's cool and let's use it. No one should do stuff like that.
Some decades, but when an appropriate movement came 10 years ago in 2014, that social conservatism nurtured for decades on silently at the grassroots was simply transformed into political conservatism.
But no one voted for BJP for political conservatism. People voted for BJP. Some people voted for BJP in 2014 because they were fed up with Muslims and they thought Modi is going to fuck them. And some voted because they were fed up with Congress's corruption. ये तुम conservative grassroots movement के वजह से vote नहीं मिला. 2019 में मिला because of Pulwama, and again good development stuff happening, and plus I think it's a nice Hindutva kind of a vibe going on. 2024 में दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो गया है.
Cultural nationalists are today not only a dominant social force, but also a dominant political force in India today, led by Mr. Narendra Modi's government. Friends, I'm not exaggerating.
Dumbas Mish, I'll have to disagree with you because even in the, like, speaking fast, of course, is a modern thing. But before that, people used to speak in that fake elocution sort of a tone. Okay, friends, Romans, countrymen, today we will do this and that. वो tone था. You all have heard Hitler's speeches, right? Dude is the greatest voiceover artist of all time. He's reading from fucking a jotted down complete speech, and he's giving it so passionately. His hair is falling to his face, and he's saying, So this kind of slow Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Narendra Modi kind of speech was never the norm anywhere. It was dramatic, melodic, and now it's fast. That it's a machine gun AK-47. There was no Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Narendra Modi phase ever in the phase, sort of a phase in the history of speeches, or at least powerful speeches.
When I say that a billion Indians stand up for this idea of cultural nationalism today, a billion, it's a big number. Even our political adversaries, the Congress.
Ajju, in what way? Didn't people vote for Modi because he was known as the guy who will keep Muslims in check, plus Congress? Congress is the most corrupt party in the history of Indian politics. Didn't these two things factor the most? Were people going to vote for Congress again after so much corruption charges? People were not pissed off with Muslims at all.
Party and others, whom we in our Indian political parlance, we call them as secular nationalists. We are cultural nationalists, they are secular nationalists. Even they cannot go against this popular sentiment of cultural nationalism anymore. Let me give you a very recent example. In January this year, a massive temple complex came up at Ayodhya in North India, marking restoration of India's cultural and civilizational glory. The old temple at the birthplace of Hindu god Ram was destroyed by invading Mughals in early 16th century. Like how millions of Jews yearned for the restoration of the temple on the mount in Jerusalem, 1.4 billion Indians yearned for centuries for the restoration of the temple at Ayodhya. They too waged many battles. And we succeeded in bringing the temple back through a judicial process in 2019. And when its consecration happened, Prime Minister Mr. Modi was himself present. That temple construction represented a new conservative consensus in India. And you know, the main opposition party in India, the leaders of the main opposition Congress party in India, their objection was not about whether it was secular or not. But the objection was, why Modi for consecration, why not me? Friends, that is new idea of India. A quintessentially cultural, patriotic, and nationalist. Let me tell you, this is not an exclusivist idea. Not against any religion nor any community. It is the reassertion of the conservative soul of our ancient nation. After we secured the absolute political mandate 10 years ago, we used this conservative consensus to take back everything that the Nehruvian liberals took away from us several decades ago. We ended socialist protectionism and promoted free market economy. Of course, in the last 20 years. I'm not just saying 10 years. From the 11th position a decade ago, today, India is catapulted into 5th or 4th largest economy in the world. We reclaimed our universities and academic bodies. We took back the media space. And we recently launched a new education policy to rebuild our academic curriculum to teach conservative values to our future generations, something that most of you are worried about in your countries. Friends, it's no longer fashionable to call oneself a liberal or a socialist or a secular in India anymore. Yeah. It's no longer fashionable.
Yeah.
On the contrary, it is cool to be a Hindu. It is cool to be a Buddhist. It is cool to be a Jain. It's cool to be a person of religion. It's cool to be a conservative. It is cool to wear your religion and culture on your sleeves without any fear of anybody criticizing you. The left liberals are cornered from all sides in our country today. They are in deep distress. They once controlled prestigious institutions like Jawaharlal Nehru University for decades. but today scrambling for a foothold in some corner of the country. If they don't find it, they're all coming to your country, they're coming to your universities, they're coming to your media. But please remember, next time you find an article about India in one of these liberal media in your country, the NYTs, the WAPOs, talking about authoritarianism, oppressive atmosphere, democratic backsliding, etc., etc.
अरे मैंने राम माधव का पूरा स्पीच नहीं सुना था, एंड में ये सब क्या बोल दिया? अरे ये क्या फेरी टेल लाला लैंड? व्हाट द फक इज ही सेइंग? अरे ये क्यों बोल रहे हैं? अच्छा ठीक है, वहां पे अब मिल गए चुतिया बनाने को, उनको बता रहे हैं अब, ठीक है.
Just laugh it off. It is the wallowing of these desperate left liberals. Don't try to look at India from that prism, because they tell you that we are Hitlerians, we are fascists. We are actually great admirers of the Jews and their national struggles, but we are portrayed as Hitlerians and fascists to you. But do you know that they portray you as racists, white supremacists, and Christian fundamentals to our people? So don't take them.
ये राम माधव ने एक बढ़िया बात बोला है भाई. इसके लिए इनको हम 100 में से अब 30-40 दे सकते हैं, क्योंकि ये बहुत बढ़िया, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है कि भोसरी के हमको हमारे कॉमीज बोल रहे हैं कि तुम व्हाइट सुप्रीमेसिस्ट हो, तो तुम भी चूतिए जब कॉमीज बोलेंगे कि हम यहाँ पे हिंदू फैसिज्म कर रहे हैं, वो मत सुनो गांडू बैठ के. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है, ये राम माधव ने बोल के बहुत बढ़िया काम किया है.
On face value. Ladies and gentlemen, on a serious note, we may not fully appreciate the whole idea of liberal, conservative, this divide in India, because we come from a totally different civilizational background. But we share many ideas with you, the NatCons. Yet there are bound to be a few differences. For us in Global South, conservatism comes with the baggage of colonialism and superiority complex. The trauma of centuries of European colonization and the harsh treatment meted out to our religions, our cultures, and our traditions is still fresh in the minds of our people. Secondly, we are a religious country, but we believe in freedom of religion. India is a land of many religions. At the root of Indian conservatism is the belief that all religions are valid paths to same eternal truth. We do not abhor religious diversity, nor do we insist that everyone should follow only one true religion. We actually celebrate diversity. Our understanding about religious freedom is a freedom to propagate one's religious beliefs, but not a freedom to decry or demonize others. Thus, while individual freedom of religion is sacrosanct, we consider institutionalized activity of proselytism, especially if it is pursued using force, fraud, or allurements, as alien to our worldview. At the same time, we jealously uphold the right of every Hindu, every Christian, every Muslim, and every Jew to practice his or her religion without any fear. Finally, we consider issues like climate challenge as real, and we disapprove of their denial. Ladies and gentlemen, these red lines notwithstanding, I'm standing here to express our solidarity with you in the battle for preserving your national identities, religious traditions, and social customs. In the emerging new world order, the left liberals are ahead of us in creating global networks and alliances. They captured institutions like media, academia, and spawned global NGOs.
Okay, this is actually the answer to what ma'am Pooja Shingla was saying. That I don't understand why Indian right wing wants to collaborate with US right wing. करना होगा because the global left wing is united against all the conservatives of all the countries. तो थोड़ा manpower चाहिए, scholarship का manpower etc. algorithm manpower ये सब चाहिए, ठीक है? algorithm power, तुम इसका share करो, वो तुम्हारा share करेंगे, ये सब चाहिए, ठीक है? तो and this is the answer basically.
Using those instruments, they created a profoundly negative image about conservatism. They are attacking our national identities. They are destroying our family values. They are ruining our social and cultural fabric. They have promoted unbridled illegal immigration in the name of multiculturalism, destroying demographic and cultural balance in our societies. Demography is destiny averred August Comte. We realize this hard reality today as our streets are inundated with infiltrators and our social life became actually acutely unsafe. The left liberals took the human rights discourse to a dangerous level by promoting social promiscuity in the name of wokeism, tearing individuals, families, and societies apart. Those who stand up to this mindless menace are subjected to a harsh cancel culture. Ladies and gentlemen, in India, we checkmated these heteropolar forces. We built stringent laws against illegal infiltrators.
थोड़ा मतलब बढ़िया अचानक चुतियापा, बढ़िया अचानक अजीब आर्ग्यूमेंट्स, ऐसा उथल-पुथल हो रहा है.
We tightened the noose around terror outfits and their overground support mechanisms championed by liberal elites in the name of human rights, etc.
Vaibhav has brought an interesting point that Western right comes under Indian left because they both hate India and Hinduism. In one way, yes, but it's not going to be a for many in the Western right. It's not the case anymore already, and it's going to be less and less the case. So but the enemy is common.
We put strict regulations in place to prevent global NGOs from digressing from their assigned duties of charity and playing havoc with our social, political institutions. It's okay, we are criticized, we are demonized, and we are disparaged by the global liberal elites. But we dismiss them with all the power a billion Indians give to us.
लो एक और बढ़िया सेंटेंस और फिर अजीब एक उल्टा पुल्टा आर्ग्यूमेंट जिसका कोई बेसिस नहीं है, और ये वैसे भी कूल लग रहा है क्योंकि मैं 1.5x में सुन रहा हूँ. ये मतलब एक्चुअल स्पीड में कूल भी नहीं लगेगा और ये है भी बेसलेस. हमने 1.5 बिलियन जिसमें से 240 सीट निकला है, वो सब मिलके इन लेफ्टिस्ट भोसड़ी वालों का गाड़ मार दिया है. ये है आर्ग्यूमेंट इनका.
Friends, we are here at this conference to tell you that power of a billion Indians is ready to stand by our conservative colleagues from across US and Europe today. Let us build a strong global movement for conservatism based on principles of pluralism, inclusivity, and respect for religious diversity. Where our religions feel respected, societies feel secure, and governments feel free to pursue their national agendas.
I'm not laughing at Ram Madhav, I'm laughing at the comments, okay?
Towards building such a movement of global conservatism, we, a billion Indians, can be with you. We can be behind you. And if you may wish so, we can be in the vanguard. We can be in the forefront. Dr. Joni, thank you for this opportunity. Let me end by extending an invitation to you to come to India in 2025. We will be happy to host NatCon 2025 in India. Thank you. Namaskar.
Yeah. If NatCon happens in Delhi, I'm going 2025, unless I'm in the middle of some insanely urgent work and everything is well in my home and stuff. So let's say if people like Steve Bannon, important, significant people come, Jack Posso and those kinds of people. If Vivek comes by, tab to I'll be the first one to buy the ticket. Then I'll see you all in Delhi. Hope this happens. Okay, तो अच्छा देखते हैं कुछ हुआ क्या, कोई आया क्या कहीं पे लाइव, ट्रम्प वम्प आया?
List ticket, and all of the right people are happy about this, including Tucker Carlson, Vivek Ramaswamy, Ben Carson, Marco Rubio, Glenn Youngkin, and a bunch of other great names. Of course, Donald Trump doing his due diligence here. Donald Trump has been talking about his vice presidential selection well before the Iowa caucuses. In fact, you can recall we've been covering this and after Trump.
Let's see J.D. Vance's family.
Trump announced him as a running mate. Sources familiar tell he is actually quite new to the political scene. He's somebody who has rocketed this.
I wrote Hillbilly Elegy because I wanted to give people a sense of what it was like to live in a community like mine. I didn't think a whole lot of stories were told about.
Oh, he has written Hillbilly Elegy. I've heard of this book many times. That's why I was thinking, where have I heard the name J.D. Vance?
White working class Americans. I didn't think a lot of stories were told about people who were struggling with some of the problems we were struggling with, joblessness, drug addiction, and so forth. And I thought that I could tell a story that would make people understand my family a little bit better, and maybe in the process, understand the struggles of a lot of families in Middletown, the state of Ohio more broadly.
JD carries where he came from everywhere with him. And he talked all the time about how much he loved Middletown and Ohio and his family. And he would
And Usha did not even have to convert for JD as a Christian conservative to marry her. This is good stuff.
tell me all of these stories about why it was the greatest.
Files, he chose this guy over Vivek because he's okay with being a rubber stamp nobody. Vivek is not.
Place in the world. In his mind, this is the center of the universe. And that's one of the reasons that he was so enthusiastic about bringing his whole family back here.
I am from Ohio. I grew up in this state. I left to join the Marine Corps, and I came back to build a business and to raise a family because we wanted to raise our family in a place that's beautiful, that has great people, and that has great values. And this is my home. I love this place and I care about it.
These are his people. This is where he's from. These are the people who carried him through difficult times in life. And he really believes, and I believe that if he can get himself into a position to make a difference for them, he will.
I'm running for U.S. Senate because the people that I grew up around, the people across the state of Ohio who are trying to achieve the American dream, they actually need somebody to fight for them. Right now in Ohio, people who are working hard, they're playing.
Yeah, Shastri, I'm not saying JD Vance is a rubber stamp, nor is Trump a rubber stamp, but the post of VP itself is a rubber stamp.
By the rules, they're trying to get ahead, they're trying to make a better life for their children. The leaders of this country think they're stupid, they think they're bigoted, they judge their viewpoints, they're shipping their jobs overseas. No one is fighting for working and middle-class Ohioans who are just trying to build a good life for themselves.
Actually, politically speaking, JD Vance is an overconfident pick for Trump, I think, because the VP is picked usually to capture the votes of those people who the presidential candidate can't pick. Biden as a vice president was picked to convince the conservative white people who would probably not vote for the black guy. Kamala Harris was picked just for the woman face, okay? कि देखो हम तो पूरे patriarchal नहीं है, ऐसे ही चलता है. तो जेडी वैंस का क्या एक्स्ट्रा बेनिफिट है जिसको मतलब वो ला पाएगा जिसको ट्रंप नहीं लाता, वो कोई लॉजिक नहीं दिख रहा है मुझे. तो आई थिंक विवेक वाज अप्रोच्ड, विवेक रिजेक्टेड द स्पॉट, देयरफॉर जेडी वैंस वाज आस्क्ड. There's absolutely no reason why JD Vance should become the VP in terms of the conventional logic of the VP, that he'll get the extra votes that Trump won't be able to get. No fucking way.
I want to be the person who's fighting for them. We are a good country with good people.
What Aju is saying here is my main medicine towards generational troubles and implicit bias. Yes, implicit bias is real. Yes, generational problems and culture is a problem. But we'll have to learn from each other. Why is diversity a great thing? Diversity ऐसे ही great thing नहीं है. Diversity भोसरी के great thing है एक very specific चीज के लिए, ताकि हम एक दूसरे से अपना कल्चर सीख सके, ताकि अमीर गरीब से सीख सके कि वो गरीब होके भी अपना जिंदगी कैसे बिता रहा है, कैसे स्ट्रगल से ओवरकम कर रहा है. गरीब अमीर से सीख सके कि वो अमीर होने के लिए क्या क्या उसने किया, कैसे कैसे वो अपना अमीरियत मेंटेन करता है. तो सेम विथ कल्चर, सेम विथ डिफरेंट कास्ट्स. तो we'll have to learn from Brahmin families that what in the fuck are they doing that they keep on producing brilliant minds, whether it's Bengal's Brahmin commies or devout Hindu people like Jesai Deepak Vivek Ramaswamy. सब कोई ब्रिलियंट स्कॉलर कैसे बन रहा है भाई? तो कोई और तो कुछ गलती कर रहा है. तो वो नहीं सीख के हम रिजर्वेशन दे के बोलेंगे कि हाँ तुम थोड़ा कम पढ़ो, जो ऑलरेडी पढ़ाई में बेहतर था वो और भी ज्यादा पढ़ो. ये कैसा लॉजिक है?
And when we support each other, we actually can accomplish great things.
देखो, Saugad is asking, Dada, what do you think of white men going now? They are going for प्यार तो होना ही था, ये भी होना ही था. Men have a tolerance level for the amount of loud people, loud women they can take. And Indian and Asian women, probably if they are second generation, third generation Americans, they are a bit loud, but not as insane as black, Mexican or white women. तो sanity के खातिर तो यही करना है भाई. दादा, JD Vance gave a talk at NatCon. अच्छा, तो वो भी देख लेते हैं. चलो ना ब्रो, स्टेट should have 82% reservation. ये sarcastically बोल रहे हैं कि भाई साहब सच में ये चाहते हैं. After watching The Voice, this video seems like Deep's introductional video. Realistically, Vivek has no experience dealing with deep state, old money, and geopolitical scene. This is exactly what Nikki Haley alluded to. Cronyism pays you cheap oil industry. Yeah, but what does JD Vance get Trump? That's what I'm not getting. I think he's overconfident at the moment. That the intelligence is 50-70% genetics, Dr. K admit. Yeah, and even that would not be surprising because intelligence is dependent on health, child रहते हुए तुम्हारा न्यूट्रिशन कैसा था, तुम कैसे इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रेटा में हो, तुम कितना हेल्दी फूड खा रहे हो उसके ऊपर. तो अगर लोअर कास्ट बाई डेफिनेशन अगर गरीब भी है तो उनका तो न्यूट्रिशन का सत्यानाश हो चुका है, तो इंटेलिजेंस अफेक्ट होगा ही. तो इंटेलिजेंस के ऊपर सब कुछ डिपेंड नहीं करता है, वो है फैक्टर. तो इंटेलिजेंस इज नॉट द एंड ऑल बी ऑल, बिकॉज अ लो इंटेलिजेंस पर्सन who will be by definition not an overthinker, therefore will probably be a bigger doer of actions. So IQ is not not that big of a factor here. White and Latino and Black and Latino land in more diverse, and yeah, that's because of Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society programs. After watching, let's check out JD Vance's speech. And actually, I haven't watched Vivek's speech as well, guys. Let's look at both of those today. तो पहले विवेक का देखे कि पहले हमारे वाइस प्रेसिडेंट का देखे? जेडी वैंस, नेटकॉन देख लेते हैं पहले, भाई साहब क्या बोले हैं. अच्छा, यहाँ पे कुछ फुटेज चल रहा है क्या? देख लेते हैं एक बार. अरे ये अभी भी चुपचाप है सब कोई, ऑडियंस में बैठा भी है सब कोई.
Let me just offer a few observations about where we are, because I think it's important to sort of acknowledge that we've had a lot of successes and we've also had some defeats, and to sort of level check about where we are. When I came to this conference in 2019, I was a venture capitalist. I was an author. I had written a book. I was running a venture capital fund, and I was not really thinking about public policy aside from the fact that I was worried that my country seemed to be going in the wrong direction.
Good night, dinner.
And I think I made a couple of points there in that speech 5 years ago.
नहीं, मुझे भी सोना है. 2 घंटा 50 मिनट हो गया है. चलो विवेक का सुन के सो जाते हैं. विवेक नेटकॉन.
Different questions, not the urgent question. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's going to be a different kind of speech tonight. I've been giving mostly campaign trail style speeches, but this is a different type of conversation we're going to have tonight about what I see as an interesting, friendly, intellectual rift within our own America First national conservative movement. But before I get into that rift, I want to say a word about the man who I hope we are going to be successful in putting back in the White House. Donald Trump is not only the 45th, but the 47th president of the United States. And accomplishing that goal this year is certainly more important than anything we're going to accomplish in this room today. But we all agree on that already. I talked to the man twice today, and every time the sense of energy and revival that he brings to our party is something that's not lost on me. And that's where I actually want to begin. It's going to be a tour of a short history since 2016 and what Donald Trump did in the 8 years since he first ran for U.S. president. The thing that made him so compelling as a candidate in that 2016 primary
2025 में कोई इसको लाओ दिल्ली में नेशनल कंजर्वेटिज्म कॉन्फ्रेंस के लिए भाई.
Was that unlike the other candidates, he didn't just blindly parrot the party's historical orthodoxy with fancy verbiage wrapped around it. He offered an entirely new worldview, actually, one that shattered the historical neoliberal consensus to its core, but one that had, by that point, become pervasive in the Republican Party. He offered a nationalist vision for America's future. On foreign policy, he reimagined our relationships with other countries. He rejected the idea that it was America's job to be the arbiter between the good guys and the bad guys. There's no such thing in our view of international relations, but that it was our job to look at international relations through the prism of what does or does not advance American interests. He was alone in the GOP primary in that cycle in 2016 in opposing forever wars, including the Iraq War, something that bucked the Republican consensus, and so much so that it's easy to forget today how contrarian that was. It's now become the consensus in the Republican Party and probably for most of us in this room. And I think that's a testament to the seismic imprint that he had in the conservative movement, but not just on foreign policy. The same was true for immigration policy, actually. Republicans have long opposed illegal immigration. That's true. But if we're being honest, we have sloppily used the vehemence of our opposition to illegal immigration to actually obfuscate a deeper divide on our views on the quantity and quality of illegal or legal immigration. So pre-Trump, the consensus among Republican elites, and I have to confess, I usually hate using the term elites. I think we're too sloppy about it at times. But here, narrowly, I use Republican elites to refer to the subset of people who were most influential in setting Republican policy. The consensus among those Republican elites was that immigration policy was an extension of economic policy. Do whatever maximizes the size of the economic pie, period. If companies could reduce their marginal costs with high-quality skilled labor, then bring that into the maximum, and we should design an immigration system that maximizes the ability of companies to do that. That was the old worldview. But by contrast, the nationalist view at the time was different. It said that immigration policy is tantamount to labor policy.
And so unlike the neoliberal economic policies, the most important question was no longer what maximized the size of the economic pie, but what maximized the well-being of American workers. That was the new post-Trump view. The same went for international trade. The historical Republican elite view was that more trade is inherently good, period. And by contrast, the post-Trump new Republican view was that the top objective of trade policy shouldn't just be to blindly increase the size of the economic pie, but instead to advantage American manufacturers. Again,
Yeah, so interesting, good question. So I think Swapan Das Gupta's speech is extremely important, and I'll give him a lot of marks, 7 on 10, for mentioning conversion. Ram Madhav, I'll give 4 on 10 for the stuff about what stuff did he mention, which we found cool. Oh, that some stuff he was saying cool and then again saying insane stuff. So it's a good start, especially Swapan Das Gupta's speech. It's a significant start.
Again, this bucked the consensus in both major parties. So just as Trump reframed foreign policy through the lens of what advanced American interests, just as he reframed immigration policy through the lens of what advanced American workers' interests, just as he reframed trade policy through the lens of what advanced our manufacturers' interests, that's what actually made him a true leader in 2016, is that he challenged an existing status quo, an entire existing system. He offered a new vision. And I think it's a testament to his success that what began as a challenge to the system became the new system. But I think where we are today, nearly a decade later, we're seeing a version of that same old problem present itself in a new way. They say if you care about somebody, you tell them the truth. If you care about yourself, you tell them what they want to hear. I prefer to challenge audiences rather than to show up with audiences and tell them what they want to hear. And I spoke at the Libertarian Party's convention, and I challenged the libertarians with views that I think buck the Libertarian Party's view, but I'm going to do the same thing in this room today. Today, I think we're seeing a lot of Republicans step up and utter phrases. I travel the country on the campaign trail for down-ballot candidates trying to help them. And I'm seeing a pattern that concerns me, actually. We see candidates utter phrases like America first. We're the party of the working class, that we need to make more things here, without actually stopping to answer the question of why we're uttering these things, without stopping to ask what these phrases actually mean. And I don't think that's a good development. Uttering phrases out of habit, out of muscle memory, rather than remembering why we utter them, I don't think is a good development for any movement. And I think an important part of the reason why the historical neoliberal consensus failed our country was not just that it failed to predict certain adverse consequences of its policy prescriptions. After all, no economic or political theory is ever perfect. I think the thing that was the deeper problem with the old neoliberal consensus was the intellectual laziness and capture through which it earned its staying power. Even after the 2008 financial crisis, you'll remember, the neoliberal consensus on immigration, on trade, on foreign policy became so codified as dogma in the Republican Party that our own Republican presidential candidates, from George Bush to John McCain to Mitt Romney, didn't know exactly why they were saying the things they were saying. All they knew is that they were supposed to say them. And I'm keen to make sure that we don't make that same mistake in our own America First movement today. So this evening, I'm going to, as I said, give a not quite a campaign-style speech, but to focus on a different question. It's not the urgent question of who wins the election this year, the less urgent but no less important question of where the America First movement is actually going to go or ought to go after what I hope is a successful second Trump term. It's not a rah-rah speech. My goal is to actually tonight just illuminate what I view as this growing, healthy, but existent rift between what I call the national protectionist direction of the future and a national libertarian direction for the future. Both of them reject the historical neoliberal consensus on foreign policy, on trade, and on immigration. But for different reasons and with very different implications for the future direction of America First policy. And these are two different worldviews which I believe do have, or at least should have, a home within national conservatism. And I believe that the national conservative movement will be most successful if we actually understand these rifts rather than to pretend that they don't actually exist, and to surface the common ground between them as well, which I think is greater than their differences in their rejection of the historical 20th century neoliberal consensus. So with that, let's start with the issue of international trade to understand the different views and get them on the table. The historical neoliberal consensus on trade is that more trade is good for at least two independent reasons. The first is that international trade maximizes the size of the global economic pie. And the second is that we could use international trade as a vehicle to spread democracy to places like China. The theory was called democratic capitalism. It effectively said that we would somehow export Big Macs and Happy Meals, and somehow that would spread democracy to places like China. The basic idea is that we could use our money and access to our market to get them to be more like us. Well, it turns out the idea turned out to be wrong on at least three levels. Now, I want to give a round of applause to the woman in the back, because I've been in that position many times. And you're a real hero in this room for being brave enough to bring your young daughter. My older one just turned 2, and believe me, going on a presidential campaign with a near 2-year-old, you have many moments like that one. But it's for their generation that we ask these questions. The neoliberal consensus, I think, has failed on at least those three levels that we ought to at least understand and see clearly. The first one is the most concerning. It increased U.S. economic dependence on China on sectors critical for our national security. So the little known fact is today, over 95% of the ibuprofen in our medicine cabinets come from none other than China. And as a reminder, that is the same country that concocted a man-made virus in a lab and by one means or another released it to wreak havoc on the rest of the world, including our own country. The same country that is knowingly exporting precursors to synthetic fentanyl to Mexican drug cartels, whose entry into the United States is killing upwards of 70 to 80,000 Americans on our own homeland and our own soil as we speak. That's the same country that we're relying on for 95% of the ibuprofen in our medicine cabinets and a good portion of the rest of the pharmaceuticals that we take to keep Americans healthy. That doesn't make any sense. Well, if you think that doesn't make sense in the pharmaceutical industry, and by the way, if that's what they're going to do when times are good, wait till you figure out what they do when times go bad. More concerning is the fact that the U.S. military, it's a little known to many Americans, depends on China to provide inputs for our own military equipment and the weapons that we actually use. Over 40% of the semiconductors used in Department of Defense weapons systems are actually imported from China, which is the largest supplier of technologies deemed as critical for the Army, Navy, and the Air Force. It's well known now that Chinese-made drones can be remotely reprogrammed to spy on our critical infrastructure all the way from Beijing. And I think these are real national security threats that were unforeseen consequences of the neoliberal trade policy that said that more trade was good. Raytheon's CEO last year shockingly said that this is why we need to make nice and make friends and play, what was the exact word, get along with China. Yet it raises the question of why on earth we are stockpiling these weapons, if not to protect ourselves in a scenario of, God forbid, a major conflict, and ask ourselves what exactly that adversary would do in that scenario of conflict. I don't think it takes a 4-star general to tell you that if, God forbid, we are in a conflict scenario with China, they're not going to continue to supply the very military equipment that we're going to be using to fight them in that hopeful war that we never encounter. So I think that that's the first place. And by the way, for the libertarians in the room, if there are any, Friedrich von Hayek would have agreed with me on this too. He believed that it was perfectly appropriate for a nation, even committed to free trade, to not depend on an adversary to provide its own military equipment. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's the first place where the neoliberal consensus got it wrong, was U.S.
ये गांडू लोलवर्टरियंस को कौन समझाए?
Dependence on China, an adversary, for certain sectors from pharmaceuticals to a military industrial base critical to our own security. The second place where they missed the plot, though, was it also had an inadvertent effect of creating a false moral equivalence between the United States and China. I'll give you a couple of examples to give you the actual texture of this. In 2020 to 2021, when Xi Jinping was pressed by international actors about the Uyghur human rights crisis in the Xinjiang province of China, the first thing he often said in those interviews was that Black Lives Matter shows that the United States is no better. This wasn't an accident. Just that same year in 2021, Yang Jiechi faced off with Tony Blinken, our little puppet of a Secretary of State, at the Alaska Summit, and spent a 15-minute opening monologue lambasting him in the United States, where China called on the U.S. to be more proactive on protecting human rights and to stop slaughtering, that is his word, not mine, stop slaughtering Black Americans. This would be laughable if it weren't for the fact that our own companies, from Nike to Airbnb to BlackRock to JP Morgan Chase, were in those years effectively saying the same thing, criticizing social injustices in the US without saying a peep about actual atrocities in China, which in turn creates a false moral equivalence between the United States and China, which in turn erodes our greatest geopolitical asset of all, which is not our nuclear arsenal, but it is our moral standing on the global stage.
वो तो भाई कब का चला गया विवेक, अब उसको उसके बारे में दुख करके क्या फायदा. तो my point is that if you all read his book Woke Inc. and Capitalist Punishment, you all will know in much more detail exactly how he has brought out specific things. And I thought after reading the book that they will fucking sue his dead body into the ground 6 feet under. They couldn't do anything because Vivek was right about all those accusations. That they went on saying one good thing, one virtue signaling here about a completely unrelated abstract topic, only because they were trying to distract people away from us certain fuck up they did on a similar topic. Insane. Company after company, big company after big company, with the collaboration of UN.
And third, so that's the second area where the neoliberal consensus missed the plot. First is the dependence on China. Second is the new class of international moral arbiters in the economy that create a false moral equivalence between the United States and China. And then third, and most subtly, it was the rise of international bodies that imposed constraints on US companies, particularly climate-related constraints and social constraints on
हाँ, वो अब इंटरनेशनल आर्बिट्रेटर बॉडी भी तो भाई यूएस ने ही फंड किया था, बनाया था हमको वो डंडे पे रखने के लिए. अब वो बैकफायर कर गया तो अब क्या करे.
US companies that weren't applied to Chinese companies. In the international climate negotiations, China conveniently characterized itself as a developing nation.
ये एनआरआई कॉमीज ने इनका ऐसा मारा है, इनको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है कि जो इंस्टीट्यूशंस, जो एकेडमिया इन्होंने सब बना था, फंड किया था इंडिया जैसे कंट्रीज को डंडे पे रखने के लिए, वहां से आके एनआरआई कॉमीज ने अब ये सब यूएसए वेस्ट पे उनका गाड़ मार दिया है.
Despite being the second largest economy in the world and a military that, if we're being honest, is potentially on parity with that of the United States, classified itself as a developing nation. And as a result, China and much of the rest of the world burned more coal last year than in any year in its history, while the United States forcibly burned less coal than we ever have in our own history, one of the major sources of baseload power generation for our electric grid. And the economic impact of this can't be overstated. So in those three ways, the neoliberal consensus missed the plot, certainly with respect to the US relationship with China. Now, the national protectionist answer to this recognizes those failures and risks of the neoliberal view. But it commingles those concerns with a totally separate concern about protecting American manufacturers from the effects of price.
भाई अब तुम कोई ऑनेस्टली ऑब्जेक्टिवली हमको बताओ, ये स्पीच कहाँ पे है इन टर्म्स ऑफ content, delivery, tone, the way it's framed, the arguments themselves. ये विवेक का स्पीच कहाँ पे है और रामाधव और स्वापन दासगुप्ता का कहाँ पे है? ये कोई कंपैरिजन ही नहीं है. वही मेरा कंप्लेन है.
Price erosion from foreign competition,
ये एक आईवी लीग का पॉलिटिकल साइंस का लेक्चर है जो हम सुन रहे हैं. और स्वपन दासगुप्ता राम माधव का जो स्पीच था वो बियर्ड बाइसेप्स का पॉडकास्ट एपिसोड था.
Including but not limited to China, to stop other countries from flooding our market with their products.
पूरा भोसरी के पूरा यूएसए का इकोनॉमिक हिस्ट्री सुना रहा है पूरा.
And imagines an industrial policy that allows us to use taxpayer resources to purposefully subsidize certain critical areas for American production.
Saugad, I don't know if Anand Ranganathan can hold the candle to Vivek. He might be able to. I have a hunch. But J. Sai Deepak, I'm sure, yes.
Where we're less competitive today. That is the national protectionist direction that I described at the outset.
What do you mean he's pandering to conservatives? He is a conservative.
By contrast, the national libertarian view is different. It is...
He's bringing a comparative view to this fucking speech. He's bringing in both perspectives because libertarians are conservatives in a way and then conservatives, and he's bringing in both perspectives, then the historical perspective, comparing all of them and then saying, see, this is where this person was saying a good thing, this is where this person was saying a good thing, this is where this person was wrong, this is where this person was wrong, this is where we can have a separate idea. This is like light years ahead of what Swapan Dasgupta and Ram Madhav said.
Focused exclusively on eliminating U.S. dependence on China in those critical sectors for U.S. security. But here's the rub. If we're really serious about decoupling from China in those critical sectors, from pharmaceuticals to our military industrial base, that actually means more, not less, trade with allies like Japan, South Korea, India, the Philippines, Vietnam, Mexico, and other countries around the world. And I think that that's an irreducible trade-off, because there's no way to actually seriously decouple from China in those areas that are critical for U.S. security interests, at least for the foreseeable future, without nearshoring those supply chains to allies. Yet if your top objective is to protect American manufacturers from the effects of foreign competition, then you're necessarily extending the time period it's going to take to actually decouple from China in those critical sectors. There's no free lunch. It comes down to a slight difference of priorities. 90% of the policies might be the same, but the prioritization that leads us there is a little bit different between the national protectionists.
No, M. Shastri, I'm disagreeing with you for one reason, that M. Shastri is saying that, okay, let's bring M. Shastri's full context. So he's saying that criticism of Ram Madhav and Swapan Dasgupta's speech is a bit unfair. I can't say much about Ram Madhav, but Swapan will definitely improve the more he interacts with other conservatives. And then he's saying that, remember, the BJP was effectively denied access and treated like a pariah. So Ram Madhav and Swapan Dasgupta's speech can't be really criticized. It's their first time. I definitely think Swapan can make really great argument as he interacts more. Here's why them being, let's say, sidelined all these years or being invited for the first time does not matter at all, because these people are following politics all the time. Or at least they are supposed to have been following world politics all the time, which is why they were brought in the first place. And it's not their first time giving a speech. Right? तो पहली बार जब तुमको बुलाया जा रहा है, तो स्पीच जो तुम देते फिरते हो हर जगह पे, तुमको इनका पॉलिटिक्स भी पता है, एटलीस्ट स्वपन दासगुप्ता को पूरा का पूरा पता है, तो उसमें तुम मतलब ये लाइट ईयर्स बिहाइंड विवेक क्यों हो, especially when he is 38. So what I would concede is that you can't compare everyone with genius fucking prodigies. You can't compare everyone to Sachin. You can't compare everyone to John Petrucci. वो ठीक है, but admit that Vivek is the Sachin, John Petrucci, Lata Mangeshkar.
And the national libertarians. So the bottom line on trade here, on the issue of trade, before I move to immigration, is this. The neoliberal consensus was wrong because it ignored the national security implications of increasing U.S. dependence on China in certain critical sectors, particularly our military-industrial base. But if we're really serious about reducing our economic dependence on China, not just talking about it, but actually serious about doing it, that necessarily means more, not less trade with other allies. But if your top priority is to protect American manufacturers from the effect of foreign competition, then that impedes our ability to decouple from China in those critical sectors on the fastest time frame possible. That's the simple but uncomfortable truth. And I think our movement will be stronger if we're able to have the debate about the trade policies we do or don't favor on that basis. So I'm going to open this up at the end to Q&A, and I expect
Oh fuck, Q&A bhi hoga. So you see, M. Shastri, why it's not even a semantic issue. It's not a word choice issue. It's a content issue. स्वपन दासगुप्ता का पूरे स्पीच में हमको एक चीज याद आया. What's my key takeaway is that he brought up conversion. Great thing. That's the only point I remember. Ram Madhav ke in case of Ram Madhav, I don't even remember what the awesome thing he said, but I remember that he brought up some awesome things, then said some stupid things, then some awesome things. The stupid thing I remember is he said that he has, the current dispensation has kept commies in check in the academia, which is a complete fucking lie. But see the content of Vivek's speech. What framework he is bringing to the table, what comparative history he is bringing to the table. It's light years ahead.
And hope for challenging questions to the view that I've presented here on trade. But first, in finishing up the areas that I'd like to review in the speech section of this, I'm going to move to the issue of immigration. The historical neoliberal consensus on immigration is that legal immigration is inherently good because it allows companies to reduce the costs of production to achieve the same level of overall output, which in turn has the effect of increasing the size of the overall economic pie. So let's make that specific. On the old view, if a company were able to hire 2 legal immigrants to do a job for $10 an hour, for the same quality, for the same output that an American worker requires $20 per hour to do, the right answer was to design policies, including an immigration policy, that allows the company to hire those 2 cheaper foreign-born workers. By contrast, the national protectionist view is that we should adopt policies that stop those 2 immigrants from taking the job so the single American worker could...
Look at this comparative steel manning sort of a speech. How? He's bringing out both views, then comparing. Imshasti is saying you can't expect Ram Madhav to know the history of Western thinking. That's a bit too much. Swapan Das Gupta, though he has had exposure. तो मतलब तो अब मतलब किसके लिए गए थे भाई स्पीच देने? If you want Ram Madhav to make a similar speech, he would use the Indian experience to do it, but it would be uninteresting for an American audience. That's the semantic gap. Do you think he can give a similar speech on the Indian context in India? No, I don't think so he can.
Could earn the higher wage. Now, the old school classical economists' response to that is that, well, that's going to reduce the size of the economic pie. It's going to reduce the number of American workers who get hired by companies at all. And I think the national protectionist response to that has effectively been, well, that's just an ivory tower myth that doesn't actually play out in reality. And more recently, I think there have been some creative and thoughtful arguments made that the influx of cheap foreign-born labor has actually impeded the quality of innovation in the United States. So, for example, when McDonald's...
This speech is basically a sort of a workshop or a masterclass on political science, world politics, geopolitics in any Ivy League on a Friday afternoon. That's what this speech is. We are lucky to listen to this speech for absolutely free.
McDonald's is able to hire cheap foreign-born workers, they're less likely to innovate with digital kiosks at their shops. Instead, what they're able to do is now use those digital kiosks. There might be fewer American-born workers who are operating them, but they're going to be paid that $20 instead. This is an argument recently and thoughtfully made by my friend J.D. Vance in his recent interview with Ross Douthat in the New York Times. That is the national protectionist position. So the old neoliberal view, what it viewed as immigration policy as inextricably linked to economic policy, where the sole objective was economic growth. Where the national protectionist view, historically viewed as the NatCon view here.
Aju actually brings up a great point, which I have a counter to. See, Nikola Tesla was an immigrant, so is Vivek. Vivek's father is at least. And Indians are the highest tax bracket and stuff. But you see, why that's not a justification for unfettered, even legal immigration. Illegal to chodi do. Because India and people from Philippines, Indians and Philippines people are the highest tax brackets in USA. Okay, their population is absolutely minuscule. The people who are below the white Americans, the gigantic populations of all other countries, they are the majority of legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. They absolutely contribute fucking nothing to USA and take away all the freebies and welfare policies. That's why conservatives of USA have, I think, a legit reason to be against immigration.
In response to that, said that, you know what, we're going to view immigration policy as inextricably linked to labor policy. And we're seeing that in a lot of the statutes that are being proposed. A number of Republican senators have actually favored raising the federal minimum wage by over 50%. And one of the bill's co-sponsors in that case expressly said that raising the minimum wage to $20 an hour would make it more difficult for a company to replace a native-born worker with an immigrant who would work for less. Agree or not, that's an important part and parcel of the national protectionist position. The national libertarian position rejects the historical neoliberal consensus too, but on different grounds. The United States is not just an economic zone. This is what puts the national into national libertarian. We're a nation bound by a common set of civic ideals, shared citizens who share not just a geographic space, but a common set of ideals that unite that country, one that we've badly lost in the United States of America today. We are in the middle of a national identity crisis. We have lost our sense of who we are as citizens of this nation, and sloppy immigration policies have only worsened that crisis. So the right immigration policies would be those that look after the security interests of the United States, amounting to a hawkish position, of course, on the border and on illegal immigration. But it would also look after preserving the national identity of the United States, manifest in
Yeah.
the form of greater screening requirements
Yes.
for legal immigrants.
Right.
That screen not just for their ability to make economic contributions, but also for their willingness and readiness to adopt and share American values during their
Yes. और यहीं पे जाके सारे के सारे बंगाली एनआरआई कौमी तमिल एनआरआई कौमीज को देश में नहीं घुसने देना चाहिए था, जिन्होंने सबसे ज्यादा डैमेज किया है यूएसए को मेरे ख्याल से। जिन लोगों को फर्स्ट अमेंडमेंट का मतलब नहीं पता है, फर्स्ट अमेंडमेंट का गुरुत्व नहीं पता है, सेकेंड अमेंडमेंट क्या है पता नहीं है, सेकेंड अमेंडमेंट क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है पता नहीं है, यूएसए का 10th अमेंडमेंट क्यों है पता नहीं है, क्या है फेडरलिस्ट पेपर, क्या है एंटी फेडरलिस्ट पेपर, बिल ऑफ राइट्स तो भोसरी के उनके बेटे बेटियां फिर भी स्कूल में सीख लेंगे, नेशनल एंथम के सिवा कुछ नहीं पता है, अपने नेबरहुड के बाहर कुछ नहीं पता है, एक दो दिन वीकेंड में ड्राइव पे जाते होंगे। ऐसे चूतियों को भाई लीगलिटी के बेसिस पे भी देश में नहीं घुसने देना चाहिए अकॉर्डिंग टू मी।
our time here, values that are enshrined in the U.S. Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. That necessarily means heightened civics exams, not just for citizenship, but even for green cards and other forms of entry. Necessarily means the elimination of dual citizenship as a category altogether, the idea that you could pledge allegiance to two nations at once.
Of course.
It necessarily means, in my opinion, the adoption of English as the national language of the United States, a nation founded on ideals can't exist if you can't communicate those ideals to one another. And it further means ending birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals in this country, because an important part of
this is the most obvious one. Do you know Isha Ambani, her brother Akash Ambani, Isha Ambani's sons and daughters, or Akash Ambani's sons and daughters? All of these are American citizens. All of them were born in USA. They were just happened to be in USA when their mothers were pregnant, and they are American citizens today.
American national identity is that we believe in the rule of law. That is who we are as Americans. For similar reasons, I actually, by the way, just going on an aside here, I don't know if all of you will agree with this or not, but I actually favor civics exams, the same ones that we require of immigrants before they're able to.
याद है हमने एक रिएक्शन वीडियो किया था ना शायद, वो जब ब्रेकफास्ट क्लब में वो पागल औरत ने विवेक के साथ डिबेट करने की कोशिश की थी, तो तब वो कौन एंकर है उसका नाम मैं भूल गया, वो जो ब्लैक रेडियो होस्ट है, उसका जो को एंकर है वो गांडू विवेक को बोल रहा है कि so what if you don't know the three branches of government? Even I don't know. I'm a 42-year-old man. तो ये चुतिया ऑब्वियस नहीं है, वो बिना जान के गांडू, उसको पता नहीं है कि जुडिशियरी, एग्जीक्यूटिव और लेजिस्लेटिव ब्रांच अलग होता है, इनका अलग फंक्शंस है, ये चुतिया नहीं जानता है और पूरा दिन बोल रहा है कि व्हाइट सुप्रीमेसी के वजह से, कैपिटलिज्म के वजह से देश का सत्यानाश हो गया। ऐसे गांडू को वोट करना अलाउ करना चाहिए।
Vote in this country. I actually favor the implementation of civics exams for every high school senior who graduates from high school before they're able to cast a vote as well, because if we require it of immigrants, we should require it of ourselves. I think our lack of a shared national identity in the United States is one of the greatest threats to the continued existence of our republic. This republic was founded not on a common genetic lineage, not a common ethnicity, not a common religion even, but a shared set of civic ideals that brought together a religiously divided, diverse group of people 250 years ago.
No, here Vivek is pandering a little. Here he is not entirely correct. When USA, when American founding fathers mentioned the freedom of religion, they meant freedom of the different sects of Christianity. I think they said it in 1784. Immigration policy became stupid in 1965. So they had no fucking clue that this was going to happen to USA. So when they said freedom of religion, they had a completely different USA in mind.
And if you believe, as I do, that these common ideals are essential to our national revival, then it should inform not just our immigration policy, but what we expect of our own citizens as well. So to a national libertarian, and I think I'm blowing my cover here, but that's the camp I fall in, the top objectives here of U.S. immigration policy are to protect U.S. national security, to preserve U.S. national identity, and to promote U.S. economic growth in that order. That's different from the myopic neoliberal worldview of yesterday, which promoted economic growth at all cost, even at the expense.
And people who know something about libertarianism and are opposing me when I talk about libertarianism, they think I'm this kind of a libertarianism, which is basically neoliberalism. I'm not for these kinds of idiotic stuff, guys.
Expense of national security and even at the expense of national identity. But it is also different from the national protectionist view, who I believe myopically promote American wage growth, worker wage growth, even at the expense of these other important national objectives. In the national libertarian view, immigration policy should not be labor policy, certainly not just labor policy. And on this view, the quality of immigrants, both in terms of their allegiance to the United States of America and their ability to make contributions to the United States of America, matters far more than the quantity of immigration. With more stringent screening of those immigrants for loyalty, for civic knowledge, confirmation of their ability to make contributions, there would almost certainly be fewer, far fewer immigrants entering the United States by reducing chain migration, asylum seekers, and refugees. But I think that's the right way to, in a principled way, achieve that objective rather than arbitrary and I believe sloppy numerical caps on the numbers of immigrants that enter on a given year. So here's the bottom line on immigration policy. Entering the United States of America is not a right, it is a privilege. And with that privilege comes a duty to this country. Immigration policy is summarized for me in 3 simple maxims.
Obviously.
No migration without consent. Consent should only be granted to migrants who benefit America and who share American national values, and migrants who enter unlawfully without consent must be removed. It's that simple on immigration policy. But we have to be tethered to the first principles for actually carrying it out. And that means we're going to have to turn most immigrants away. I mean, the reality is the Center for Immigration Studies actually put these numbers out. So approximately 700 million people would enter the United States today if we actually did have open borders. So the reality is the overwhelming majority of immigrants are going to have to be turned away, but it won't be because domestic labor unions are afraid of foreign competition. It'll be because we have national boundaries and a national identity and a rule of law to preserve in the United States of America. And I think it's worth seeing the difference between those two justifications, even if they get us to, if not the exact same place, to mostly the same place in the end. And that brings me to the most important difference of all between the national protectionist wing and the national libertarian wing, which is our attitudes to the regulatory state itself. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. The national protectionist view, I believe at its core, believes in reshaping and redirecting the regulatory state to achieve objectives that advance the interests of American workers and American manufacturers. By contrast, the national libertarian view is different. We don't believe in reshaping the regulatory state to accomplish any objective. We believe in dismantling the regulatory state altogether. Not because we don't care about American workers or manufacturers, but because we believe this is the way to best advance the interests of American workers and manufacturers. Reform is not an option. The only option is to shut it down.
Vaibhav is saying Ambani should have called Vivek, or did he? I would bet that even if Ambani did call him, which he might have, Vivek would reject it, because Vivek, since he's very intelligent, he knows who to mingle with at which point. And he doesn't, this wouldn't be a right move for him at this point. And especially, I know this because when Vivek first came on the scene, okay, before any Indian right-winger found out about him, I was the first one to talk about Vivek because I follow American politics all the time. Even before most American conservatives took him seriously, I was one of the first ones to mail him that I'm a huge fan of yours already. Will you come on my podcast? So he saw the message. Obviously, his team did and did not respond. So I thought maybe I'm a small channel, that's why he's not coming. Then I saw he was going on channels with 1,000 subscribers, 2,000 subscribers. Then I realized he doesn't want to come on an Indian podcast because it will bring his national loyalties into question. So he knows what to do when.
That is a stark view. And while I appreciate the applause,
विवेक को ऋषि के साथ कंपेयर किसने किया भाई? तुम बंगाली हो क्या? बंगाली में एक वर्ड है चांद मतलब मून और पाद मतलब फार्ट, ठीक है? चांद और पाद का कंपैरिजन मत करो.
I think it's worth noting where the rubber hits the road, because I do think even in this room, or certainly in our movement, a movement amongst friends that reject the historical neoliberal consensus, I do think when push comes to shove, there is a diversity of our commitments to actually seeing it through. I don't mean this metaphorically, shut it down. This isn't deep state bashing, normal verbiage stuff, all right? This is how serious are we about actually getting in there and shutting it down? National protectionists, many believe in expanding the scope of certain agencies like the FTC. Many national protectionists believe that Lena Khan is doing a good job. And I give credit to those who are actually courageous enough to be principled to their own convictions to actually verbalize that. They believe the FTC's job isn't to simply focus on the historical objective of consumer protection, but to focus more broadly on what we might call fair competition. By contrast, the National Libertarian, and I share this view, believes that a government regulator should not be empowered to pass judgment on what does or does not count as fair competition. Certainly not without going through the constitutionally ordained lawmaking process of Congress, delegating it instead to an unconstitutionally unelected federal bureaucrat. The same thing goes for other less discussed agencies, the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or the Department of Transportation. National protectionists believe.
Now, Vivek has not been to Rogan once even now, no? So I think what has happened is Rogan has rejected. If at all Vivek has asked to be on his podcast, Rogan has rejected, or Vivek has not asked to be on his podcast, and Rogan has not shown interest, because Rogan speaks to people only that he finds interesting and he wants to speak to. And he probably thinks Vivek is a plant or a sort of a shifty, snake-like politician because of his smooth verbiage. Okay. And here, I've seen that American white people have a handicap in understanding people whose first language is not English. Okay. Do you all know a person called Jonathan B.I.B.? Okay. He's a person of Chinese or like some Japanese or Chinese Korean sort of a heritage. Okay. So he was a computer science guy, entrepreneur, and is a huge philosophy fan. Talks about different legendary philosophers, Nietzsche, René Girard, etc. So his vocabulary is like Vivek. It's a little more academic like Vivek. And white people dislike that about Jonathan B as well, because they say that why are you putting on this fake kind of a way of speaking? You are trying to sound like an intelligent person, but what they're not getting is, since people like Vivek and Jonathan B are basically first generation fluent English speakers for whom English is almost a mother tongue, they will speak English like the people they have grown reading. And therefore, many people have had this problem, and including Joe Rogan, I think. They think Vivek is putting up a fake act. But this is what will happen if you are a good academic NRI and you are the first generation to be born in USA. You will speak like the people whose books you've read. So there's a handicap I think Joe Rogan has screwed up.
Believe that the failure of poorly...
Sadhguru got into Joe Rogan because Spotify asked him to, because Sadhguru's managers are that powerful and Spotify wanted to keep Indians and Hindus happy. He has a huge view.
Run companies in regulated industries like aviation and railroads means that we need more regulations to protect workers and passengers in those industries. It's a reasonable view, but it's a different view than mine, where the National Libertarian believes that the regulatory state was the root cause of those failures in the first place. To be clear, we all agree that it is utterly unacceptable.
So I was asking, when will this end? This will end when Vivek's speech ends. We are at 27 minutes right now. It will end at 37 minutes.
For American companies or government contractors like Boeing to build airplanes with doors that fly off mid-flight, or trains that contain toxic chemicals flying off the rails in places like East Palestine in my home state of Ohio. But we differ in our diagnosis of the problem, and therefore in our respective vision.
Yeah, and that's how I realized that Joe Rogan did not really want to speak to him. अब Spotify के साथ contract बन गया है तो अब क्या करे? अब वो contract खत्म भी हो गया है. Now Joe Rogan has even more autonomy. But yeah, Abhinav reminded me that he did say good things about Vivek, but he obviously did not find him interesting enough to call him, I guess, or Vivek just... I don't think Vivek would not give him time. I think Joe is suspicious of him.
Of the ultimate solution. Take the CFPB. A lot of good national conservatives in the protectionist camp, people we know and love, have introduced bills at aiming to protect consumers from higher credit card interest rates, setting a ceiling at 2 percentage points below the average credit card's APR. You could debate the policy merits. I personally think there are some significant issues with that. Most average credit cards could actually be deemed illegal if that law were to pass. You could risk cutting off hardworking Americans from the credit market. But put aside the policy debate on the merits, the deeper issue is that laws like this would expand and empower agencies like the CFPB, which was created in the post-2008 Dodd-Frank Act and was inaugurated by none other than Elizabeth Warren. The agency is supposedly self-funded. It's actually a misnomer. It all is footed by the taxpayer in the bill in the end, but that's a discussion for another day. The fact that they call it a self-funded independent agency allows it to escape democratic accountability and the backstop of congressional oversight. Well, guess what? That CFPB, that agency was the same agency that very recently just started demanding, you guessed it, that small businesses disclose for their loan applicants. They require their loan applicants to disclose their race, their ethnicity, their sex, whether their business is minority-owned, whether it's woman-owned, whether it's LGBT-owned. And of course,
नहीं तो funding नहीं मिलेगा.
Everybody in this room is totally against that. Every national conservative is against the weaponization of administrative power to advance this kind of rank social progressivism. But the real question is, why on earth would we then empower that same government agency with even greater authority through added consumer protection regulations? The question is this, do we as America First conservatives really want to be handing rogue government agencies like the CFPB with more power? The national libertarian answer to that question is simple. Hell no is the answer to that question. The right answer is not to give the CFPB more power while admonishing it to do the right things. The right answer is actually to get in there and shut it down. You're starting to get the point. I like that. So I think, look, we've talked a big game as recently about 2023. I'm going to give you a couple more examples, and then we're going to open this up for Q&A. But to really shed light and to see the contrast here, I think it takes getting into the details a little bit. In 2023, you've seen a lot of conservatives step up and talk about recouping bank executive pay for banks that have received bailout. Sounds like a reasonable idea. If you're a bank that's been bailed out by the taxpayers, that executive should not be getting their bonus or keep their executive pay. Fine.
Yes.
But there's a difference in the question of emphasis. If you're a national libertarian, you believe that the government should not be in the business of bailing out banks in the first place.
Yes.
That's where the real root cause is, not recouping the executive pay. And a strong national libertarian position would go even further, certainly my view, to dismantle the scope creep of the U.S. Federal Reserve itself by limiting its mandate to dollar stability, period, instead of trying to centrally manage inflation and unemployment as some sort of centralized god. It's like the equivalent of a drunken bar patron trying to throw darts, hitting two different targets at the same time with one dart badly missing on both. That's what our Federal Reserve has been doing, to the detriment of American workers, because they have viewed wage growth as a leading indicator of inflation, when in fact anybody who's ever been in the business world knows that wages are the last thing to go up in an economic cycle, which means they tighten monetary policy right into a downturn of the economic cycle, which gives us booms, busts, and then what do you know, bailouts in the end, and having a side debate about whether or not we should recoup bank payments, when in fact what we need to be doing is put the Federal Reserve in its place. That's the national libertarian view, which is a very different emphasis than arguing after the fact as a national protectionist that looks the other way when Silicon Valley Bank gets bailed out. But then the question about how we actually recoup executive pay is the only thing that's left. The Department of Education is another example. The national protectionist view is we've been paying too much for four-year college degrees and subsidizing.
ये गांडू को प्रेसिडेंट नहीं बनाया भोसरी वालों ने. Fuck. ये क्या पॉलिटिकल साइंस, इकोनॉमिक्स, जियोपॉलिटिक्स का मास्टर क्लास चल रहा है.
That I agree with it. Now, in one view, the right answer is, well, we need to instead subsidize more trade schools and vocational education. To be clear, I think trade schools and vocational education are important for the fabric of the United States. But the question is, what role do we want the Department of Education playing in that? Do we really want the same agency that has infected woke dogmas in our public schools across the board, inflated the cost through subsidies for four-year college education, to now be the same bureaucracy that somehow is...
Which was the main concern. Stuff like this was the main concern of the anti-federalists, like Thomas Jefferson. So, some people are talking about the multi-party system and whether India has too many parties and stuff. I don't think the number of parties in India is a problem. What I would draw from USA in this context is the candidate selection procedure, the primary debates and stuff. That would be better, and then actually it can function even better if we have multiple parties. नहीं अज्जू, ट्रम्प ने तो जेडी वैंस को सिलेक्ट कर लिया.
tasked with carrying out the noble goal of fostering and subsidizing vocational programs and two-year college degrees instead? No, the right answer is not to reform the Department of Education. The right answer is to get in there and shut it down. That is the principled position, and return that money to states and their citizens. And so I think the bottom line on the regulatory state is this. I think everybody in this room agrees, myself included certainly, that we need to get in there and start deporting millions of illegal aliens who should not be in this country in the first place. But I think we might vary in our level of commitment to the second kind of mass deportation that I believe we also require, which is the mass deportation of millions of unelected federal bureaucrats out of Washington, D.C. as well. That's what it means to actually get in there and shut it down. And it's notable that the conditions have never been more ripe in our history, certainly in the 100-year history since the advent of Woodrow Wilson's administrative state expanded under FDR and probably mostly nearly every major president since then. This is a historic opportunity that we actually have to get in there to do it. After 2022, West Virginia versus EPA that held major questions cannot be decided by administrative fiat, by the recent rulings of the Supreme Court this cycle in Loper and in Jarkissi from the Supreme Court that effectively said that many of these agency actions are unconstitutional. An amenable U.S.
वो राहुल का डिबेट और लौड़े का डिबेट होता फिर वैसे भी ठीक है वो शुरू करता 2002 में ऐसे आपने क्यों काहे किया और मोदी बोलता के भाई और बहनों आज ये पप्पू ये चुतिया का डिबेट होता और वो भी planned और पूरा scripted.
President has never been more empowered than he is today to actually take back the power from unelected bureaucrats and put that power back and vest it in those who have actually been elected. The mechanics of how that would occur, it's important. That's a topic for another day. I'm not going to plan to get into it unless it comes up in Q&A. But what I will say is for the first time in modern American history, certainly in a generation, the national libertarian dream is no longer a fantasy, but an achievable reality. So in conclusion, the difference between these two philosophies of national conservatism comes down to a question of prioritization. The neoliberal view was concerned with two core objectives.
I disagree, Vaibhav. I think Vivek rejected the VP spot. And especially with the things he plans to do, if he was not allowed to do those things, he said he would not take the post anyway. He has been saying this all along. So his goal is the top position 2028.
Above all else, maximizing the size of the economic pie and using capitalism as a vector to spread democracy around the world to project U.S. power. That was the neoliberal view. By contrast, the national protectionist view focuses on guaranteeing wages for American workers and to elevate the prices that American manufacturers are able to command in the marketplace. Whereas the national libertarian view is concerned foremost with getting in there and actually dismantling the...
ये पूरा का पूरा 37 minutes का speech है, comparative analysis in the realm of politics, economics, and even history and geopolitics between the neoliberal view, libertarian view, and protectionist view. इसलिए ये कॉलेज मास्टर्स लेवल कोर्स का एक मास्टर क्लास वर्कशॉप सेमिनार स्पीच है ये.
The regulatory state as its top concern, not because this objective is more important than adopting policies that help workers and manufacturers, but because it is the way to help American workers and manufacturers. I don't think we're going to beat the left by adopting the methods of the left. I don't care to replace a left-wing nanny state with a right-wing nanny state. Our goal is to dismantle the nanny state altogether, permanently once and for all, to burn it and metaphorically burn its ashes once more. And if we succeed in doing so, that will mark the beginning of an American revival that starts with the radical principle of the American founding, that the people who we elect to run the government will once again be the ones who actually run the government. Saying hell no to the vision of old world Europe that distrusts we the people, that said we the people can't be trusted to sort out our differences on climate change or racial equity. We say hell no to that vision. We the people, for better or worse, will govern ourselves without the managerial class of the administrative state telling us how we live our lives, and we will not take over that apparatus for the purpose of redirecting it. We're going to get in there for the purpose of actually once and for all shutting it down. Thank you for your warm welcome, everybody. I look forward to opening this up for a few questions of conversation before we wrap tonight. Thank you. Thank you.
अरे Q&A यहाँ पे नहीं दिखाया, ये कैसा नाइंसाफी है. Okay then, thanks a lot guys for staying with me for about 4 hours. It passed like a click. Thank you for joining guys. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm coming live with Mystery Sociologist. Thank you for joining guys. Good night. Bye bye.
श्रवरूढं महाभीमं गुणाद्रष्टाम्बरप्रदं हस्य युक्तं त्रिनेत्रं च कपालकर्णिकाकरां मुक्तकेशीं नरज्यं पिबन्तीं रुधिरं चतुर्बाहु समायुक्तं वराभयकरं स्मरेत् चतुर्बाहु समायुक्तं वराभयकरं स्मरेत् काली काली